Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Humboldt County Board of Commissioners meeting for Monday, July 19, 2021. I would like the record to show that Commissioner Tipton is not present, and I believe we have Commissioner Hill on video. We'll begin, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Hill, are you with us? Commissioner Hill?
See him on there. He's muted.
He's muted. Okay. We're gonna assume you're with us. Okay, we're going to begin with public comment. Is there anyone in the public who would like to provide comment? If you're on the phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Chair, I have a public comment that was emailed to us.
Okay.
Okay, so this is from Mr. Alex Potts. Commissioners, we will not be able to attend the commission meeting on 7/19/21, but wanted to share our opinion about agenda item 5, the nuisance property located at 6200 Colt Drive. Thank you for your continuing efforts to help resolve this nuisance, but the nuisance still exists. The junk, cars, and half blown away house are still in place. We have been dealing with this for too long and urge you to abate this nuisance. Thank you, Alex and Rachel Potts, 4550 Weatherby Drive.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Those will be included in the record. Either way, if you would like to get going, you can come on up now and speak. Okay. Are they going to want to say something as well? Okay. Well, if you want to wait, we'll allow it then. Okay. So the next on the agenda is COVID update, a presentation by Dr. Charles Stringham, and Public Information Officer Nicole Maher regarding the current status of the Humboldt County response to COVID-19 virus. Do we have Dr. Stringham? Are you on? Do you see Dr. Stringham is on?
I do not see him on unless he called in with one of these phone numbers.
Dr. Stringham, are you on the phone or online? If so, you'd like to speak, go ahead. Well, not hearing anything. If he gets on here later, he can speak then. How about Nicole? Do we have Nicole? Are you online? I'm not hearing either one of those. I wonder if they knew that we were starting earlier.
We sent them a reminder last week, Michelle, and the link as well.
I guess we can table that for now, and if they get on later and have anything to say, we'll
absolutely
go back to that item. That brings us to number 5, nuisance complaint update regarding 6200 Colt Drive, parcel number 06-0261-05. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a follow-up to the nuisance complaint as defined in Humboldt County Code 8.040.010. The property is located at 6200 Colt Drive, Winnemucca, Nevada. Assessor's parcel number 06-0261-05. This is for discussion and possible action to set to a future meeting. Information only. Wendy, do you have anything to?
I'll give you an update. Wendy Maddox, Deputy DA for purposes of the record. After you all had a meeting 2 weeks ago, I actually that week was in hearings, so I had messages when I got to my office every day from Daryl Kennedy trying to reach out to me and get a hold of me. I wasn't able to get a hold of him till the end of the week, so those accumulate. Mike and I had a conversation with him together. He wants to work with us, wants to work with all of you. We talked to him about some of the concerns and the issues. And his perspective is, you know, I've tried to install a fence. I thought that would be sufficient. And there's two things that I want to let you know. Is that the week that he and I were supposed to meet, I had sent him an email, basically so that he had my signature with the address of where he was supposed to meet me. And he did not show up for that meeting. That week we were having our meeting was the week at my office where we didn't have air conditioning in our office because they were repairing the roof. So we had 5 days without AC and it was over 100 degrees. And so Daryl Kennedy and I had a meeting at 4 p.m. that week, whatever day it was. I sent him a message either the day of or the day before, just by email, telling him that we needed to meet at the library because we didn't have AC in our office. When Mike and I spoke to him, he represented that he did come to my office. He didn't get that email. He did come to my office to try and meet with me. The office was closed because it was closed to the public. And he didn't know about the meeting at the library. So I did want to represent that to you. It's also my understanding that he's tried to reach out to County Manager Mendiola during that meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. So Mike and I also went out to the address. We went out to 6200 Colt. We looked at the property. We've seen some of the improvement that's been made and some of the work that needs to be done. So he and I are going to continue to work on that and put a case together. Our next plan of action is to meet with Karen and Levi with Building and Grounds, and then I can report more back to you.
Was there, Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a follow-up, Wendy, is there did we settle on a scheduling for him to abate that issue on the
No,
property?
we kind of just had a initial conversation to kind of see where his mindset was, if he was even willing to work with us. We feel that he is, based on the fact that he called me so many times that week, that he did come up here and the office was closed and that he knew that. So we're going to have another conversation with him, but what Mike would like to do is he wanted to go out and look at the property himself. He wants to get kind of up to where I am on things. He wants to go back and listen to the minutes from the meeting. I haven't had a chance to reach out to the clerk, but I intend to reach out to her and ask her for both an audio and the minutes from that meeting so that DA McDonald can listen to those and get up to speed on everything. And then we do want to meet with Levi and Karen prior to reaching back out to Mr. Kennedy.
So is it your understanding that Mr. Kennedy is in possession of the what is expected of him in terms of the ordinance, what is required?
No, he's not. We didn't have that conversation with him. We just had kind of an initial conversation, about really, I wasn't even sure if he was willing to come to the table. So we just had a conversation with him about if he would continue to be willing to work with us. His kind of mindset was, if you guys are going to go forward and go forward on charges with me, then I need to, instead of putting money into my property, I need to put money into retaining a lawyer. So we kind of put the brakes on that as far as to let him know we're willing to work with him. We just want to have a conversation with Building and Grounds and go out and look at the property. And so we haven't had an opportunity to have that conversation again with him.
He's been aware of some of it, obviously. I mean, he built the fence or attempted to build
Absolutely.
something that resembles a fence. And he knows, he was fully aware of the abandoned car provision within our ordinance. So I'm assuming he knows, at least from that standpoint, what is required of him. But with regard to our conversation here and the discussions having to do with the garbage and the building materials that blew off of the building and are sitting out there on that property and are continuing, there's been no abatement. Last time I drove out there was no abatement of that material.
No, there's the fence that covers the cars, and then there are some building materials and some debris kind of to the left of it that is a concern, and we intend to have that conversation with him.
So has Mike had the discussion in terms of whether we're going to, obviously we want to work with him first. I think that's the prudent thing to do. the provisions of the ordinance allows us to cite him as well, as opposed to having to abate the issue ourselves and then create a special assessment on him. Has there been discussion as to whether or not there's going to be a citation issued?
Not whether or not it's going to happen. I understand that was the direction that was given by the board at the last meeting. The direction I've been given as his deputy and that he and I are going to work on together is really building a case so that we can get to that level.
All right. Great. Thank you.
I think we kind of misunderstood, had a misunderstanding too, that there was no attempt by Mr. Kennedy to
Yes,
even reach
absolutely.
out. And if he has, that does change things a little bit. At least he's not ignoring us, I guess.
No, he's not.
Okay.
Well, I as long as that stays that way, and
Yeah.
as long, but you know, the bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, is we need a schedule, and we need to get it picked up. I mean, just
Absolutely.
that's all we're asking for. Nothing. It's not rocket science. We're just asking to clean up his garbage. you know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the complainant, the people who file the complaint want to know too when it's going to happen and if it's going to
Absolutely.
happen.
So, and just to kind of let you know how typically when our office prosecutes case and moves forward, we get this nice package from law enforcement that has witnesses, witness statements, and discovery that we're required to give out to defense counsel, whoever represents him or him if he represents himself. So at this point, we are going to be working on building that case that we usually get from law enforcement. That's something that we're going to do internally, and that's why we're going to talk to our witnesses, the building and people, talk to the sheriff's office. We may talk to witnesses again, but initially I just kind of need to bring DA McDonald up to speed and have him listen to the minutes. He's seen the property now so that he can really understand what the motion was that was made. And we had some testimony before the board at that hearing. So he'd like to listen to that as well. So.
Okay. Is there any other questions from Commissioner Hill? Or,
Yeah, this is Commissioner Hill. Can you guys hear me okay?
you bet.
Okay. Yeah, could you just note for the record, I had a little audio problem. I came in right at the beginning of this nuisance complaint, so I am in attendance.
Beautiful background.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Nebraska, does it?
Got a little smoke up on the hill, so it fits.
Yeah, yeah. As far as comments from me, I'm in agreement. I think we just need to, hopefully we can come to a conclusion and get this cleaned up and move on. That's all I really want to see too.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? If not, would you guys like to come up and please identify yourself for the record?
Christy Herman. At the last meeting, I guess I would say I was kind of confused because from the paperwork that I had received, it says the nuisance can be abated. And so I actually called my attorney to find out what he had to say about it. And I asked him, I explained to him what had happened, that many neighbors were upset about this, and when we had called different offices of the county, they instructed us to file a nuisance complaint. So we finally did. And
Out of curiosity, who's your attorney?
Rod Carucci.
Okay.
I explained everything, and then I read this where it says it be resolved and everything was found a nuisance. And I read in paragraph 3 that, and he goes, okay, stop right there. You don't need me. He said, you've already proven your case and you already have a remedy. He said, and so I said, well, can the county commissioners abate this nuisance? And he said, yes. I said, is there any legal reason why they wouldn't or why they can't? He said, no. And I said, do they need the DA to abate? And he said, no. So I'm confused as to, we have this resolution.
Yeah, and I understand that. We can't go on somebody's property without a court order or without their permission. It's really just as simple as that. Typically, when we get to this point, we have property owners that are willing to work with us and give us that consent to do
Right.
that. But
So I have another concern, I guess, because at the last meeting, I don't remember who said it, but one of you said, this is the first time somebody hasn't complied. This is setting precedent for every case in Humboldt County that comes after this forever. If something doesn't get acted on this one, anybody can come to Humboldt County and it'll be like, nope, they didn't do anything with that one. So like, I don't know. I guess he's had over 3 months now, and he built a fence that really isn't a fence. I'm going to address the fence because he's a union carpenter and he used OSB to build a fence. OSB is not outside material. When you build a house and you put OSB on your house, you get the Tyvek wrap on it as soon as you can because you don't want it to get wet because it swells and falls apart. It's like pressed particle board. It's not going to, it's not a fence. I've also went back and researched a whole bunch of nuisance cases in Humboldt County. There's been nuisance cases just for a fence that was better looking than this fence. That was all the nuisance was. The complaint was against a fence that looked better than this fence. This, to me, was no attempt at anything. I think I voiced my opinion about what I thought of that fence a couple meetings ago. Also, it's been brought up and there's 17 signatures on this nuisance complaint. But for instance, Gene Hunt and his wife, we never got a time that we could get together. He never signed it. So there's more people. There's property owners that I've spoken to that don't live there, but have property. The people that have the property right next door to his. They live in Fallon, but they're not happy about it. Like, there's way more than 17 people that this affects. And so I also have a concern of, at the last meeting, this saying this could take time and blah, 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 blah. And 1 year kept coming up. So I researched 1 year. And in 1 year, if nothing is done, all charges are dropped. Everything's done.
that's not correct.
Okay, because
So
that's
if
what
we-
Nevada law said.
No, and there's statute of limitations on certain crimes, but as soon as we file a case, then the statute of limitations.
So
is not an
charges
issue.
have been,
No, they haven't. They
okay,
have not.
but they have to be brought within a year to have something,
But it's-
otherwise nothing's
But
done.
it's still, as long as it's still a nuisance. So if 6 weeks from now, it's still a nuisance, then that would be the day that it starts.
Okay,
So,
So-
but you do, one thing, this is the avenue going with our office and that sort of thing, but you do have the right through your attorney to handle, and all those people, a private nuisance. But ultimately, whatever route we go, it's going to take time, once it's filed, to get on the court's docket and for us to get a hearing.
I mean,
What is-
I think there needs to be some kind of idea of something in writing that says what needs to be done so that, I mean, the house was deemed a nuisance. As long as that house is sitting there, all of our property values are, we've all lost property value. As long as that house is there, there's nothing that's going to make that house better. It's bringing down our property values. Is that house going to be moved? He doesn't have any permits. He doesn't, I mean, what are we doing here? What, an attempt supposedly at a screening that, as the law reads, it's supposed to be on a remote area of the property, and he put this right closer to me and Connie, like closer, right? Couldn't be any less remote on a 10-acre piece of property than where he put that and put all his junk. I don't see the improvement. I don't know.
Connie Gaynor, for the record, and Christy is super frustrated. We all are. We absolutely all are. As for the fence, It has been stated that it was a direct middle finger toward all of us. And if you drove by, you saw that he had options to move items to the back. He blatantly chose not to move the vehicles to the back. He moved them to the front between the yellow shanty and the OSB. I can't even call it a fence. We do have a nuisance. We do have a problem, as Christy said, with this. And I can tell you directly, if you want to look at what happens when you don't stand by your law, please look up Josephine County and look up Cave Junction, Oregon, because that's where we're from and that's where my family is from. And because issues like this were not resolved immediately, that county is disgusting. It is lawless. There are people coming in from all over the county. Oh, look, you can just move in here and do what you want. Oh, look, you can move in here and do what you want. Okay. We are going to set precedents if we don't do something about it. I will say thank you for this matter, because now I am more educated on our county commission, and I probably will quietly attend meetings just to keep up to speed. But this is ridiculous. We have hay fields that we need to tend to. I have family in Oregon. I have an uncle who's dying of cancer. I can't. Our time is valuable.
Yeah, this is.
Our time is
too.
valuable.
Every time, the longer this takes.
My husband having 3 days off. Monday is one of his days off. Where am I? I'm here. He's got to go take care of hay fields and stuff and to help take care of Christie's. Something's got to be done. I would like to see a written plan of action with a written rough time frame. Yes, you have to go through the court system. I respect that. I do have a background in law, but enough. We gave him till June 21st. You as a commission gave him till June 21st to do something about it. He did nothing. Now all of a sudden he's telling you he's doing things. No, back to the rat pack. Move it to here, so that when you drive by, oh, look, he moved something. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I can stand in my living room window. I'm out in the swather baling hay and boom. I mean, he's not. Right now, my farm looks like a tornado went off with broken farm equipment, but drive by again and it looks different. He's not doing anything. He's going to continue to give you the runaround. I can guarantee it. Guarantee it. It's got to stop. If the county doesn't set precedents on this matter, where are we going to be in 5 years? You really want these people moving in and destroying our values and where our county stands, what we believe in? I guarantee you, if you do not set precedents on this case moving forward, you will end up just like the counties in Oregon. And that breaks my heart to no end.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Commissioner
respond a
French.
little bit, as long as we're still on this item. First off, we came up with the idea last meeting. I can't remember if you were here or not, but the reason this is on our agenda right now and is going to be on every agenda from here on until it's abated is that we are on point in terms of what we're going to do with this. I was as surprised as you when I was told that that there was no teeth in our ordinance. I think that's a quote. I feel that I have to agree that this is a precedent setter. I have been involved since I've been on this commission with probably a dozen nuisance complaints over the years. And most of the time people do the right thing and they try to get it done. We've never had one where it was a blatant disregard of the ordinance and to see whether or not we mean it or not. From that standpoint, from a goal from where I sit right now, two things. First off, we're going to abate this one way or the other. Number two, if we have a problem with our ordinance and with enforcement in our ordinance, I want to move forward with changing our ordinance if it's necessary in order to put teeth in it. Because it's obvious we're not here. We're wasting your time. It's not. It's a distance from
Yes.
Paradise Hill to where you're at right now, and you've been in here 4 times now, I think, since on this thing. It's obvious that there's 9 people signed that initial letter, 9 families signed that letter.
And there, like I said, there's more.
There's no question in my mind, you guys are motivated and want to get this thing fixed, and you're not looking for, somebody's head on a platter. You're just looking to get your life back. So at any rate, I just want to state for the record right now that I'm as interested as this being abated as you are. It's not in my backyard like it is yours, but I'm interested as well, because obviously we're wasting an awful lot of time, and the commission's time here as well. It's not a waste in the sense that I don't want to be here, but this shouldn't have to be on our agenda, our docket 5 or 6 times. And then I'll end my comment by asking Wendy, I know that Mike was building a case, and he said that here when he was here last meeting. The ordinance allows for, under circumstances where we have an owner who was present on the property and whatnot, the last, and I didn't bring the copy of my ordinance with me today, but the last item on that ordinance indicated that the commission had the option to request a misdemeanor citation be issued, as opposed to all of the rest. I mean, this is the same thing as if I'm driving 90 miles an hour on Highway 95, I get a misdemeanor citation. That provides a docket. That provides that gets that case in front of a judge. And I'd like to know why we don't issue a citation. If the guy doesn't want to comply, and the guy doesn't, why not write him a citation, and that would put it on the docket?
So here's some things that I'd like to say in regards to this conversation. I know you guys talked about fence. I know you're not happy with the fence. Technically, the fence is fine as far as a nuisance, okay? That's not something,
That's not what it says in the nuisance.
it's
laws.
not, what do you mean? It says it has to be screened.
No, it says it has to be dog-eared cedar or dog-eared pine, I believe, or
And it's,
materials approved by the county commissioners.
and it's,
And it was not approved by the county commissioners.
however, it's my understanding that through years and years of nuisance complaints filed, that we have accepted a screening of less than that. So he's attempted to
I
do
looked through
something.
nuisance complaints. I didn't find anything that was not approved by the county commissioners that was accepted
And when
like that.
when you said you looked at nuisance complaints, I'm not aware that this board has ever filed a nuisance complaint. What do you
Excuse
mean?
me. I
Like in
looked all
court?
online, every nuisance complaint in Humboldt County that I could find. I read through every county commissioner meeting
Okay.
minutes. I read through every
I
case
understand what you're
anywhere
saying.
I could
Yeah.
find online.
So
And so the law is written to protect people who file a nuisance complaint against an ugly fence like this. Certainly OSB should not be a fencing material. Like, I don't know if you've ever done any building, but OSB is not outside material. It's going to fall apart. It's going to be part of the problem instead of any kind of remedy to the problem.
But this
It's going to blow away.
this is the
It's-
government. Just because you don't think something is a good looking fence or you don't like it, doesn't mean the government can overreach onto somebody's property and tell them to take it down. You have to remember that. I mean, there's government overreach. So ultimately, we're gonna end up in court is what's gonna happen if we don't get what needs to get done. And it's gonna be up to the judge, but it's gonna take some time to get there.
So
Ultimately, we have to build a case. I mean, we don't just file a citation when we don't have any case. We have to build a case before we file a citation.
Exactly.
if you could, with us all being here and all of this evidence that we've brought to you. So we've brought the evidence to you guys. Now, if you're building your case, then I would be under the assumption that somebody from the DA's office would be reaching out to us to gather the evidence outside of the commission, correct?
I don't know if it's gonna be somebody from the DA's office or if it's gonna be the building department or if it's the
Somebody,
sheriff's office.
somebody outside,
That is
somebody outside the
component of
commission.
Building a case. What you said today, that there's more people, those are more people that we need to get information from.
So at what point will that begin happening?
After we've had a chance. So this is just, and I know that you don't like to hear this, this is gonna take time. This is just one of my many jobs. And so
Right.
we spent time last week, we went out to the property, we talked to Daryl Kennedy, Mike and I talked about some of the things that need to happen. We're gonna have this on the next nuisance agenda. I can't guarantee you, I'm gonna be in trial for the next 2 weeks, so I can't guarantee the next time I come up here, I'll be able to give you an answer. But So I can't tell you when I have a chance to sit down and figure out and strategize how we're going to build a case with DA McDonald, essentially.
I weigh in here. You know, I think it proves that we're taking you seriously because we have put this on every agenda. We've never done that before.
Correct.
We want to see something happen, and I know to you it seems like we're kicking the can down the road, but we're not. We want to make sure whatever we do sticks. You know, and I'm a real stickler when it comes to private property rights. I
Yes.
don't want to step on anybody's toes and be the big government that tells you how to run your property. But at the same time, there's right and there's wrong, and we just have to build that case. And I know I think I said this last time. This wasn't going to happen fast enough for you, and it won't. We've got to make sure that we've got a good case, but we're serious. I think you bring a good point. You know, we need to start documenting. If we have some documentation, we probably, you know, we need to determine exactly what it is we want him to do, not just say we want you to clean it up. And I mean, his idea of cleaning up and yours and mine are all different. Maybe we do need to do that and figure out who's going to do it, when it's going to get done.
If I may, I think my concern here is we had him, and I agree, your private property rights, your private property rights. I do what you're going to do, but that property is a danger to all of us in the neighborhood. I mean, period. You heard from Mr. Potts, who's with the fire department, say it's a danger. It's not just an eyesore. My issue is a snake can shed his skin, but he's still a snake. What I'm hearing is he went from being told he couldn't live there, he got threatened to fine, he left. So obviously he knows the rules. Then he comes in here and is combative, and now he's all of the sudden deciding, I'm going to play your game and I'm going to appease you and I'm going to tell you I'm going to do it. And then at what point, we don't want to waste any more county commission time. I think there's some other issues that you guys need to be dealing with other than this. At what point do you say, you know, okay, I'm abiding by the rule for a few minutes, for an hour, for a month. Oh, look, they're not watching me. Oh, I'm going to do it again. That's my concern, is there's no, if you tell us roughly 6 months, we'll have roughly, I mean, something, because right now it's, man, we're talking to him and he says he's doing it. We're living there. We're telling you he's not doing it. When you guys show up, when the inspectors show up, he appears to be doing what you're asking of him. He's not. He's not even trying at all. So at some point, what, 6 months, a year? I mean, how, 2 years, 5 years? What are we thinking? I mean, something, anything?
I can't tell you. I mean, I think that's.
Because he's just going to keep buffaloing you guys is what's going to happen.
And I know it's important to you and you're dealing with this, but I can answer that question when I tell you how many kids in this community are going to be abused and neglected. Am I going to have to handle that? How many child support cases am I going to have to handle? How many crimes are people going to commit? It's on our list where we took action. We spent 2 hours on it since we've been here this last time. It's important, I understand, but I can't tell you today what's going to happen and how long it's going to take.
So should we be expecting at some point in the future phone calls from, is that what we need to be expecting as you're building your case and gathering your evidence? Something that we, as the community,
Yes,
will,
we may,
okay.
we or somebody may reach out to you. I'm not sure when that's going to happen or what information we're going to need or who's going to be getting that information. And I do want to make sure that you're aware, there are private nuisance complaints filed all the time. So all of you as neighbors can retain an attorney and go through the process in court in a civil forum. That's also always an option for you.
I would like to add that the one basically in-person conversation I had with Daryl was shortly after he moved the house there, or the yellow trailer. And I just went over to try to get a feel for who he was, what his plans were, you know, he's the new neighbor and nobody's happy about what he's doing so far. And I told him, you know, if you want to get your power permit, I would start working on that, or get your power in and stuff. I'd start working on that right away because NV Energy is way backed up and you'll want to get that application in soon. And just told him a few things. And he said, his comment was, oh, don't worry about me. I know how to get around these things. I know how to, I've dealt with this before. I know how to handle all this stuff. I know how to get around it. So that's, and I just have a problem with, okay, now he's working with you guys, but he told you, sat here and told you guys he'd do whatever he needed to do to get it cleaned up. And so now you say he's working with you, but what has he done?
Well, he's put up a fence. That's what he's done. I mean, he spent money and he put up a fence this time, and he also testified in here that he's having medical issues or back problems. So, I mean, that's also going to be, just so you know, a hurdle moving forward as far as how much time he gets, because we can't ask him to give us all of his medical documentation.
Okay.
We can't violate HIPAA.
Well, I can tell you, I know that he was in a rollover accident, but on Facebook, when people asked how he was, he said he was fine. It was just a real slow motion thing. He was absolutely 100%, all his comments. While he was here at the hearing, he dropped his phone like 6 times, and he didn't even, he dropped it
Please
fast.
come up to the microphone.
I'm sorry, he dropped it fast, and he swooped down and picked it up just as quick, just snapped it up. Like, didn't look like his back hurt to me. If I dropped my phone right now today, I would go, oh, or be thinking that at least, just to pick it up, and my back isn't hurting particularly, but I'm 54, so.
Is there a way for us to, we feel like at least one of us has to be here to keep each other updated on this. And like I said, I have an uncle dying of cancer and I need to get to Oregon sooner than later. So what is the best avenue for us to keep updated on this other than continue to come down here? And
I would suggest you reach out to the county manager's office, because I get it, and I understand that it's taking your time, and you're going to come in here sometimes that this is on the agenda, and unfortunately, we're going to have made no progress. It's just, I mean, I can tell you that for the next meeting, because I'm going to be in trial for the next 2 weeks.
I'll assure you that we just because you're not here, nothing won't happen. We will keep on top of this, and you can call the county manager and find out what we said, and you can look at the minutes and see what we do, but we will keep it on the agenda.
If I was in your place right now, sitting exactly where you're at right now, I would call, you're welcome to call me as well. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to stay on this. The other thing is contact the county manager as well, and even contact the district attorney's office to find out where they're at with it. That they are an independent office of the county commission, and they have, we have directed the district attorney's office now to handle this case. We voted that there was a, according to the ordinance at least, that there was a violation of the county ordinance, and that he had to abate that. That went to the district attorney's office, as any case would. And I would, if it was me, rather than have to drive in, you're sure welcome to if you want to. You're welcome to call me. I'm in the book as well. You can get my personal number through the county administrator's office or manager's office, and I would call them all as well.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Cherry,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Haas. And memory is pretty good still. I don't have a set of minutes, but didn't we ask the DA to cite these people or cite Kennedy for
Last
this?
time.
Last agenda.
Yep.
Okay, so that hasn't been done. I'm not sure why it hasn't been done. All we're getting is excuses. It's been 2 weeks. As Commissioner Cherry said, this will be on the agenda until we get it abated. I can apologize, but there's nothing I can do about it. We appreciate you coming in, and there is definitely a problem we have to do it legally. Why we can't just go out and cite somebody and build a case, I don't know, but it's not being done. So I just wanted you to know that we did go that far as asking for a citation, and that's something we can do. We did not accept that fence. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay.
And there is precedent, by the way. I recall one abatement that we requested on the edge of town that was west of town. And the person, what his idea of the abatement for the screening fence was some piles of tires and plywood, OSB, between them, the tires. And we did not accept that. And it came down. So there is precedent for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was there for that one.
Is there any other comments? Since I opened this up, is there anybody else online, video or on the phone that would like to add anything to this? Commissioner Hill?
This is Commissioner Hill, yeah. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Haas. I believe we did ask the DA and the assistant DA to move forward with filing, putting out charges, I guess, or putting out a citation. I would like to see us, hold the DA's feet to the fire on this somehow and set some sort of date or whatever. I mean, I can see the concern from the public out there that this just drags on and on and on. And, I don't sense the urgency that we probably should on this. I would really like to see us set some sort of hard date for something to happen here.
Well, as I recall, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, when I asked DA McDonald, he said that we could request that charges, but we could not file, we could only make the request that charges be filed as a commission. Do you recall that?
Mm-hmm. We did request a citation.
We did request that.
And the
And-
citation is different than files, than criminal charges, correct?
No,
No.
it's the same thing.
Same thing.
So just to issue a citation, so help me understand, if I build my shop and I don't go through and I don't come through the county and get my permits, you're going to tack a fine on me for not doing what I'm supposed to do,
And I don't know if it sets a fine. I can't recall if it.
which is a citation would be, I mean, he was told, I'm just a little confused. So when it was brought to the attention that he was residing there and it was not legal for him to reside there, he was told, we're going to give you a citation and we're going to give you a fine if you don't
In the
leave.
building department, yes.
Okay, so with all of this, and I think Commissioner Hill just said it, this citation, we're going to give you a fine because you've not followed the rule. So,
So, and we still have to build a case. I mean, you can tell us that, but we have to be the
well,
one
this,
that,
this is what I'm asking. So a citation, we've proven here that I mean, everybody said the house is a nuisance. It's been deemed a nuisance. So in order to get a fine or a citation, we have to go through court and get a judge to go, okay, now we're going to fine you? Is
No.
that?
the way that it works is when we file criminal charges, first we have a case, okay? And we have witnesses and we have all these people that we're going to be able to, we look at all the evidence and we say, yes, we can prove this case in a court of law. And then we sign our names and we sign and verify that, yes, this is a violation of the law A, B, C. It has to be specific and we have to know who our victims are and we have to name those people.
So would it be the planning department or whatever, again, to issue a citation
No, they
on
don't
the other
issue.
stuff?
My office does that. They
Okay.
contact me.
When,
And that we're still working on. He claims he's not living on the property.
but Wendy, didn't he, there has to be a violation of him just putting the trailer there without permits.
So, and that per se is not a violation that I can find. It's not a violation of the
And
building.
why do we get permits?
Mr. Chair, Karen Johnson has her hand up.
Okay,
On Teams, Karen?
Karen?
Hi, this is Karen Johnson from the building department. you know, when he first moved that trailer out there, we wrote him a letter telling him that he could not live on that parcel. Now, basically what he has done is he has set that home up. It's got blocks, it's got jacks, you know, and to us that is setting up the home, and he does need a permit for that. The addition that is on that will not comply with the building code whatsoever, and that it has to come off. We have not been inside the mobile, so I can't tell you whether it's livable or not. He would not allow Levi in there when he was out there to take a look at it. There is a wood stove there in that mobile that has not been permitted. Yes, he may not be living there, but I believe he is staying there when he comes out from California, because where else is he going to stay? He could be staying in town, who knows? And I just wanted you guys to know also that he has not contacted our department whatsoever regarding what he needs to do as far as permits is from us. So I just wanted to give a little update as to where we are on the building side of this.
Okay,
Karen-
so
oh.
Karen, when you have, this must have happened before that somebody built something without a permit.
On COVID, so
I didn't,
I'll be upstairs for a little bit.
Right.
And
there without
he
a
is
permit.
gonna come at 1.
What do you normally do when that happens?
Well, normally what happens is we have to send it over to the DA's office, and unfortunately, I have to say that it falls through the cracks. I have been here for a very long time, and we've only prosecuted once, and that was quite a while ago. And it, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but it goes to the DA's office and it kind of dies.
Karen, let me ask you, last year we wrote Daryl Kennedy a letter in November. He did reply to that letter that we wrote him. And it's my understanding that he indicated to your department he wasn't living on the property, and so it was closed. And basically this whole issue, the last few months, is what's brought it up again. Is that correct?
That is correct. And when I closed it from him, because we were able to verify that he was in California and not in Winnemucca, I informed him that if we got any more complaints, I would open it back up again. So like I said, he's been out there putting up that fence. I do not know if he's staying out on that property or not when he's in town. There's no way for us to find that out. I guess the neighbors would kind of know whether he's staying out there. But there's no well, no septic on this at all. Yes, he can store the manufactured home on the lot, but usually that means that it stays on its axles and its tires, because we do have that occasionally in some of the other places. So
Karen, what's the difference this time? That's what I'm trying to understand, the distinction. So last time back in November, he said, I'm not living on the property. The building department closes it after we sent that letter. What's the difference in this time if he says the same thing? I'm not living there. What's different from last time?
Well, I mean, there's no difference. If he says he's not living there, we have to take his word for it. But there again, he's done some stuff on that property, like the addition to the manufactured home that does not comply. So, he's done some stuff there that is against the building code as far as the addition and the wood stove that he has in there. I mean, if he's not living there, really, why does he need a wood stove in the manufactured home?
We asked him about that. He claims that that home that he put on there already had that in there, so that he didn't put it in there, that he just moved it there.
And well, that could be true, but it looks like pretty new pipe coming out of the side of the home. And Levi also just mentioned that it does look like he has put a new water heater in there. There again, he doesn't have any water, and I don't see any indication that he is hauling water because there's no tanks or anything. We're in a difficult situation here as far as what you call a nuisance, and we have to take his word that he's not living there. Yes, if he stays there occasionally, he comes out, we don't get too excited about that. But if he starts living there at a regular pace like it was previously, then we do have problems.
Anything else?
This is,
Mr. Chairman,
Oh.
I have one thing I want to clarify, because there's kind of the reason I think we're staying on this subject way too long, I think, is that there is an there's an overarching concept here that's bothering me a lot. And I think that you hit on it a little bit here a second ago, having to do with the building permit question. And that is that if law enforcement, if somebody violates the law, the law enforcement establishes the fact that they violated the law, whether it be an ordinance or whether it be state law or what have you, they issue a misdemeanor citation. That citation, most of the time, is processed through justice court. In the case of this one, it states clearly that if he violates the provisions of that ordinance, that he is in violation, that he violates that ordinance, he is subject to a misdemeanor citation. It says right there. What stops us from writing a misdemeanor citation based on the data that we've already collected? I mean, nobody's asked me about what I saw out there. I've got a complete file full of photographs. We've got observations from the people who live, his neighbors around there. We've had our building department out there. We've had the sheriff's department out there.
Sheriff's Department, we don't have as our witnesses on this nuisance going forward. The building department, we don't have as witnesses on this nuisance going forward.
We have photographs that indicate that he violated the terms and conditions of that ordinance. It is all over that property. It still sits there.
The sheriff the way the ordinance reads is that we get a verified complaint, and if one exists, then we move forward. So the only thing that brought this case forward in regards to nuisance is those cars from Sergeant Peters. You all established that there were more issues, and you made a very thorough motion.
We asked the building department to go out on one of them. Building department complied with that. Went out, made contact with Daryl.
They didn't verify a nuisance existed on your building plan.
It does say.
So the bottom line is that what do we?
We verified a nuisance existed.
Yes, we're putting a case together. We have to make sure that we have, so when a trooper pulls somebody over and he cites them, let's say they get a DUI, there's evidence, there's a report that he has, perhaps he goes and takes them to the jail, gets the intoxilizer, they have a breath sample. So that's the witness and the people that we bring at court to prove that up.
I understand that. I get that.
That's what we have
He
to
made
do.
the case for you.
Right, we
Okay.
have to make a case.
Okay. So you're saying right now that the people we sent out there to this point didn't make an adequate case for you?
They didn't verify that there was a nuisance.
There wasn't an adequate case made for you to actually issue a citation.
Not based on the motion that you all made. There's more that's out there, and based on all the testimony that you heard, that indicates what's a nuisance and what
So the
isn't.
statements from the neighbors, the statements from our building department, the statements from the sheriff's department, which in my view clearly violates the terms and conditions of that ordinance, isn't enough.
We still need to get statements from all those people and build a case and figure out what evidence we have to prove each and every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt.
For a misdemeanor citation?
Yes, beyond a reasonable doubt, each and every element of that crime. Yes.
So what do we, okay, I'll accept that. So now we've established the fact that we haven't created enough, we haven't built a case yet. It sounds to me like we need the emphasis and the onus is on the county to build that case. So has there been a conversation with the building department and
Not
with
yet.
with
No, there hasn't.
because that ultimately, if you're missing that, if you're missing a statement from the sheriff's department and you're missing a statement from the building department relative to what the complaint is around, then we send those people out there, we get a formal complaint or a formal report from them, and we file a citation. If Daryl doesn't comply with meeting and working with you in a timely manner,
And we're going to still be doing that, just so you know. One's not.
I think that's a
happening
prudent
first.
thing to do.
Yeah.
To work with, the guy wants to work with you, that's fine, but I don't want him stringing us out 6
No.
months.
No.
He's November, the first letter went out, November. Bottom line is, here we are sitting in July, and these folks are still coming in here because they've still got a problem. So the bottom line is that maybe we send somebody out there. That isn't on your office, that isn't on Mike's office. That is a phone call that says, Levi, we need to send you out there. We need to build this case because we still have a problem.
Right. But we'd like to sit down with them as the attorneys that are going to be prosecuting the case. Once we get our case together and we write that complaint, that citation, and say, on this day, he violated the law by doing X, Y, and Z. We want to be able to sit down with our witnesses before they go out there and say, hey, this is how we're moving forward. This is what this reads. We have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. So we need you to go out there and collect information in regards to this.
I get you on that part of it, especially if it was a more complex crime. But this is an ordinance that is actual, it's visual. I mean, any reasonable person could walk up there with that ordinance in their hand and say, yeah, he violated that. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, and I can tell you, I've driven by it twice, and I can tell you he violated it. Bottom line is, based on that ordinance, bottom line is if we need a report, if we need an inspection and a report, then I think ultimately, and this is just me thinking out loud here, we meet with Daryl. We determine this is what we expect of you to abate this thing. This is the timeline that we tried to give him the first time, but June 21st. You give him a reasonable amount of time to comply with that based on what we've have already identified as the issue out there. If he doesn't do that, we immediately send Levi or somebody from that office out there to report that back to us so that we can issue the citation. Just, that was the question I believe that was asked, is that, do we have a plan? Are we going to do something here down the road? And I understand you do, Wendy, and I get the fact that the DA's office is swamped. But I just wonder, how do you deal with misdemeanor issues like that? I mean, it's frustrating as heck when they clearly are flaunting, the authority that we're trying to impress upon them with regard to this item, and we're sitting on our hands on this, it appears. And so I'd like to make sure that we have a clear pathway from where we're sitting right now to what we're going to do here in a couple of weeks down the road, or 3 weeks, or whatever the date is. But make sure that when they call me 2 weeks from now and wanting to know what happens, that I can at least give them an update as to where we're at with it. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong. I can't tell you today, and I'm just being
I know.
honest and
I know you
representing
are.
that I won't be able to do that for you in 2 weeks. I'm going to be in jury trial starting Wednesday for the next 2 weeks. And so I understand that this is important, but it's not the only thing that I have on my plate. And I have to sit down with DA McDonald. I have to listen to the tape with him. We got to listen to all the minutes or read the minutes. And I have to sit down with him and I have to strategize and say, hey, how do you think this is the best way to move this case forward?
I get that.
And I can't tell you right now what that best way is.
I understand your frustration, and I certainly understand your concern with your schedule and such. But I do understand these folks' concern too. They came to us, like I say, 9 families signed onto that letter. It was in March that we got that. We set a date on the 21st of June. He blew us off on that one. We set a date, and he says he tried to make to meet with you and comply with you.
I disagree with you. I don't think he blew you off.
He didn't show up here.
He
didn't provide us any kind of
I thought you meant
conversation.
in
I
regards
drove
to-
out there. He didn't do a damn thing.
But he's
That's
put
blowing me
put
off.
that fence up. That
He
is
didn't have that
something.
fence up that first time I went out.
Okay, he does now.
The bottom line is I've been out there twice, both times. First time, no fence. Second time, yeah, you can call it a fence. There's a barrier there. You can't see past it. I don't call that a fence either. But the bottom line is that he blew us off. Yes, he's got an excuse for the last meeting. I'll give him that, because he's tried to reach out and contact several people in the county. But the bottom line is I don't see him in here today either. And I don't see he hasn't made any attempt to actually come up with a plan, what his abatement plan is, because it is his problem. If it was me, or if it was you or anybody else, and they were saying, you gotta clean this mess up, I would have been front and center right there with a plan in my hand. By this date, this will be done. And I would have done it.
There's 2 sides to every coin, okay? And he feels like he has done what you asked based on the conversation that we had. That was before we drove out there, and I didn't invite him to this meeting. So that could explain why he's not here.
He did receive an agenda.
Oh, he did?
He received an agenda, but let's talk reasonable though. I mean, he says he complied. He thinks he complied. He bought 4 sheets of OSB plywood and he put a bunch of logs up there and he tacked it to logs, and that's all he did. All the garbage that rolled off that building and blew up against against the road, and all that stuff that we photographed, pointed out to him in detail is still there. And so how can you comply? You can't. So the other side of it is having to do with him living in that. We have, the bottom line is that he says there was a wood stove was in that thing when he moved into it. I can't say one way or the other on it. I know one thing for sure. He's using it.
And he's willing to take it out too. If that's the issue.
That's what he says. He's using,
Yeah.
well, pulling it out isn't going to allow him to live in the building.
No, he says he's
But
not living there. That's
he's occupying that space and he's heating it with that wood stove. Let's cut to the chase. But the bottom line is that I think ultimately, from my standpoint, I think from the board standpoint and from the DA standpoint, I think it's important that we have a clear pathway where we're headed with this and a timeline involved with it. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask.
not at all.
In regards to the fence, for the record, we had that meeting on June 21st. He began installing said fence the Friday before, which would have been 20th, 17th. Whatever the date was on the Friday before the 21st. So the technicality that I'm hearing really bothers me because it has been point blank. He is searching for every technicality he possibly can. It's been stated, the house, it's a nuisance. He's not following the rules. He's not, listen, look, I'm going to call my contractor up from California and I'm going to have him build my pole barn and somebody's going to file a complaint and I'm going to come in here and look y'all in the face and go, too bad, because you let him do it. And I mean, I don't mean to be point blank. I'm waiting on the state to approve my point of diversion so I don't have to harass my neighbor about my water. Look, I got drillers right now that'll step on my property and drop a well right now. But I'm not doing it because that's against the rules. It's against the law, right? I can drill my well. She knows it. Every neighbor in the neighborhood knows I can drill. My husband's a driller. Give me a rig. What are you going to do if I drop that well? Nothing. Nothing. You bring me before the court and I'm going to bring up this case and I'm going to go, here's your precedence.
Well, your point's a good one and you've made it several times. And I think all you have to do is look around our country right now and take a look at what
Lawless.
observing crime does for crime.
Yeah.
Is that it encourages it. And so the bottom line is that, and I think we probably, unless you guys have got something else you want to give us, I think we've probably fleshed this thing out, and I promise you, we will stay on point for this thing until we get this thing completed.
I appreciate it. And I probably will email is much better for me for updates if that's acceptable for.
If you've got an email address that you could leave with Abel
Yes.
today so that we can bring you up to speed as to what's going on point for point, we'll be happy to do that for you.
Absolutely.
I
We
have,
can also publish the meetings because they're recorded on YouTube. So if you miss a meeting, we can send you a link with the time where
Oh, cool.
this conversation starts.
So that we can move on.
I think
here.
Very cool. Yes,
I
absolutely.
think we should give them all the
Quickly.
information
Yes.
that they would have had here.
I have one
Yep.
thing mostly to say to Wendy. As far as him living there, he was living there, his girlfriend was living there, her daughter was living there, and his granddaughter was there with him for 8 months. He's not anymore, and I have proof
So
that
he's
he
not-
absolutely was. No, he comes up and stays there.
Where does he stay?
He stays there as far as I know, yeah, as far
That's-
as I know. But I'll tell you, the last time, he was here one time that I know of since in the last month, probably. I didn't know he was there. There's so many vehicles there that he had come and added another vehicle, but I didn't know he was there until I was out in my back field moving my wheel lines, and myself and my dogs and my horses heard a noise, and everybody looked, and then I saw a yellow shirt. So I don't know if he's there or not, because there's so many vehicles, you can't tell for sure, and his windows are boarded up. But I know for 8 months, he lived there, not just him, but his girlfriend and her daughter and his granddaughter most of the time.
Okay, let's,
Thank you very much.
we've kind of, I think, need to move on here. I understand where you guys and your frustration. we as a commission can direct our county manager to keep on top. We can have, the county manager can talk to the building department, get the building department to compile the information we need. We can talk with the sheriff's office, the DA, that's an elected position. We could only have so much authority over the DA's office. But what we can do with our departments, and I think there's something there. There's got to be something we can do if he's got obviously has put an add-on to something he's not living there. There's a violation right there. I don't know how much more evidence we need that he's violated ordinances already. So we will continue and keep you updated as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
commissioners.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I believe Dr. Stringham and Nicole are online.
we do? Okay. Then we're going to go backwards here to item 4, which is a COVID update. A presentation by Dr. Stringham and Public Information Officer Nicole Maher regarding the current status of Humboldt County response to COVID-19 virus. Dr. Stringham, are you online?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll turn it over to you, whatever you have to report on COVID.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Well, first, I'd like to thank everybody on the board for inviting me to come and present to you this morning. And essentially, the primary message that I want to give is that we have done a fantastic job taking care of COVID, and that a lot of people are kind of considering COVID to be over at this point. And my concern is it really isn't. With the emergence of Delta variant of the coronavirus, we really have kind of a new job at hand. And I think the primary mission that we need to focus on is vaccination. At this point, about 40% of those people in the county who are eligible to be vaccinated by age and various other status, about 40% of those people have actually been vaccinated, and it's just over 30% of the total population. So I think a lot of people are kind of considering this to be closed, that the matter's been dealt with, and that we're pretty much finished with COVID. But I think that certainly could be the case as long as everybody gets vaccinated, and then at that point, I think it'll be very unlikely that we'll see a reemergence of the virus. And my concern at this point is that when 100% of people were unvaccinated back in the early stages, we knew about the number of people who were getting infected each month. And what I think at this point is that with somewhere over 30% of the total population being vaccinated, that when the weather starts to cool off again, I think it's very likely that we can just multiply that percentage, or approximately 71, 72% of the public would be capable of getting the virus, given the vaccination rates that we have so far. So we can just take those numbers from earlier in the pandemic, last December, for example, and just multiply that number by approximately 72% and derive the number of people we would expect to get the virus as soon as the weather cools down. I'm just really concerned about that. I think that the take-home message, and the message I'm hoping to deliver, is that the vaccinations are certainly safer than getting COVID. There absolutely are some risks that have been well published in the media. I think most of us are aware of those risks, but they're very manageable, and they're more in the 1 in 100,000 or 1 in a million range, whereas the risks if a person gets COVID is substantially higher, say the 1 in 100 range. The other thing I'm concerned about is with Delta variant, we're seeing more people who are younger having bigger problems, and more people who have no comorbidities, no collateral illnesses, who are also getting very ill. There are increased hospitalizations in some communities across the United States. In general, hospitalizations are down, but when we look at communities that have low vaccination rates, those hospitalizations, ventilator utilization rates, things like that, are higher. And so I just think that we're in a wonderful position to be able to shut this virus down by having everybody get vaccinated, and I think it'll be a wonderful thing for us to do. I know that I'd spoken with County Manager Mendiola about having a meeting of the health board, and I'd like to be able to do that at some point fairly soon, because I know that a lot of the detail that we'd be talking about is beyond the scope of the meeting this morning. So at some point over the next several weeks, my understanding is that we'll be calling a meeting for the first time in several months about the virus to kind of get guidance from the health board and figure out exactly what the right approach should be, how aggressive we want to be in delivering messages and figuring out what needs to come next. And that's essentially all I have. I think the call to action here really is to vaccinate and to handle the virus that way would be my recommendations. And I'd be happy. I know that there's been a lot of time spent on the previous issue of the nuisance individual. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to keep my presentation relatively brief this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Stringham. Is there any questions from any of the commissioners? Commissioner French has a question.
I'm sorry if you already mentioned this. I was having a hard time understanding everything you're saying. It's mostly my hearing. Did you mention that, were we planning on vaccinating students before they go back to school?
Yes, there's a vaccination day that's planned, and we've been more aggressive in trying to get people vaccinated, kind of delivering hopefully more compelling public messages, things of that nature. And yes, there is a specific vaccination that's scheduled. I believe it's on the 12th of August by the Public Health Nurse's Office, and that's designed to get everybody up to date on vaccinations involving COVID. But I know that in general, these vaccinations are readily available, and really, even at this point, the primary limiting factor is the number of people who are wanting to get vaccinated rather than the availability or the scheduling of vaccinations.
Thank you.
Is there, Dr. Stringham, this is Commissioner Cherry, what's the thought as far as now we'll be soon entering a new the cool season when the weather gets cool again, and these infection rate raises? Are they saying that we'll have to those of us that have gotten vaccinated would have to get a booster, or is there any talk about that?
Yes, there's been a lot of talk about it, and we know in a general sense that boosters will be happening. And a lot of the specifics are still kind of to be announced at this point. I know that Dr. Fauci talks about that on a pretty regular basis, and a number of other agencies, World Health and CDC here in the United States is addressing that at this point too. So in a general sense, we know that there will be boosters, and but at this point, the pervasive thought is that those people who've been vaccinated probably still have adequate immunity. The other really neat part about this is that when people are vaccinated, particularly with one of the two-part vaccinations, we're seeing where infection rates are just incredibly low, and they're being called breakthrough cases, cases in which people wind up in the hospital even though they've been vaccinated, and those cases are just remarkably low, substantially less than 2 or 3%.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Stringham from the commission? I'm not seeing any. Dr. Stringham, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nicole, are you on?
I am, Commissioner Cherry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. I'll just take a couple of minutes and bring you up to speed on where we're at numbers wise. So far in July, we have cleared 19 cases. We cleared those on Thursday. Just to give you kind of perspective, we did 19 cases for the entire month of June. And so we're kind of double where we were last month. I have not received information yet on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or early this morning. So those should be coming in, but I'm assuming that those cases will continue to rise. Just to give you an idea, this time last month, we have done just about 26 cases. Like I said, I'm assuming that we had more over the weekend. So we're averaging just a little over 1 case a day right now. Also, to give you perspective, this time last month, we had about 1.5% test positivity rate. And as of this morning, we're just shy of 3.5%. So we've gone up substantially. That being said, we've also done about the same number of tests. So it's not necessarily a question of testing more people. It's just that the positivity rate is higher now than it has been. We currently are not flagged for any of the 3 elevated disease transmission criteria. So that is good news. I am not sure that that will last, but for right now, we're okay. As Dr. Stringham said, we continue to push vaccination. Our numbers go up steadily, just a little bit every week. Marcia Foreman obviously is just working hard, and I continue to help push that out to our community. As Dr. Stringham mentioned, Marcia's office has scheduled back to school immunization clinic, and that will be held on Thursday, August 12th. We are targeting youth ages 12 to 18 for the COVID vaccine, the Pfizer COVID vaccine, and then other youth, preschool to high school for other vaccines, just to get everybody up to speed. The second dose will happen on September 2nd. Pardon me. So very hopeful that our adolescents will take advantage of that, trying to push that out to the parents, and Dave Jensen at the school district has pledged to help us with that, and so you'll see a lot of information going out about that in the next couple of weeks. According to our state officials, there haven't been, as Dr. Stringham mentioned, the breakthrough cases. So we have not had any breakthrough cases in Humboldt County, meaning that no resident who has been fully vaccinated has either experienced hospitalization or death. Now, you might know that as of May 1st, the CDC transitioned from monitoring all reported vaccine breakthrough cases to just focusing and identifying those that are severe illness or death. I get a lot of questions, and I've gotten some questions from some of you about just breakthrough cases as far as just people getting COVID, and that may or may not be happening. Just to give you an idea, we just have not had reliable data on that, and I've seen reports where people have marked that a 5-year-old was fully vaccinated or an 11-year-old was fully vaccinated. Obviously, we know that cannot be the case. And so Dr. Stringham is working with our investigators and the state to try to get more data on that. But what we know nationwide and statewide is those who have been fully vaccinated, even if they do get the illness, it is largely asymptomatic, or just, I was reading a report this morning, and they're saying that the viral load just is not as high in people who have been fully vaccinated. And so it's just not as transmissible from people who have been fully vaccinated. And then just one last thing, according to the Nevada State Public Health Laboratory, over the past 14 days, the Gamma variant, that's the Japan Brazil variant, has been identified in Humboldt County. So far, the Delta has not been identified formally here, but according to my state contacts, they say that doesn't necessarily mean that Delta is not here. It just means that the sequencing hasn't happened yet. And so we are absolutely moving forward with the thought that Delta is here, and asking people to be very careful. You might be aware that LA County has now instituted a mask mandate again, and the Southern Nevada Health District has not instituted a mask mandate. They have issued a very strong recommendation that people wear masks in heavily populated areas, and so that will just keep you up to speed on what's happening there. Can I answer any questions for you?
Well, do we have any hospitalizations right now?
We do. We have one right now. And I'm glad you asked about that, Commissioner. This is interesting and kind of sad. As Dr. Stringham mentioned, we're seeing people hospitalized without those comorbidities. And I think, as Dr. Stringham and I have talked, and also with Dave Mendiola, that is our greatest concern. We we are seeing these numbers come down lower. And just to give you an idea, statewide, the average age of a hospitalized COVID patient has fallen from 53 to 41. And so again, highlighting the need for younger people to get the vaccine. And so we are actually seeing those lower ages here locally as well.
Okay. Another question I have is, to this point, we have not been flagged. If we get flagged, what will be, what happens? Will the state
That's
want
a great question too. So if you recall, and you probably don't, which is okay. That's why we're here to kind of monitor this, because there's just been a lot of information going under that bridge over the past year. But when they turned over control to the counties June 1st, if we do get flagged, the state may counsel with us to suggest some things that we could do, but it really will be up to you, to the health board, Dr. Stringham and the sheriff, to decide how we respond and what that will look like.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Nicole? See none. Thank you, Nicole.
You betcha. Have a good day. Thanks.
Okay, so now we move back to item 6, which is approval of the minutes. I didn't see any. Okay. Number 7, approval of expenditures for Humboldt County from July 8th, 2021 through July 19th, 2021. Everyone's expenditures have been around. Are there any questions? If there isn't, do I have a motion to approve expenditures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve the expenditures for from July 8th, 2021 to July 19th, 2021. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Miscellaneous reports and correspondence is item 8. Some other information of upcoming meetings on August 9th, 2021, Humboldt County Commission meeting. On August 9th, there will be a regional airport board meeting. On August 12th, there will be a regional planning commission meeting. And on August 23rd, there will be a Humboldt County Commission meeting. Are there any, Commissioner French, do you have anything to report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a couple of small things. I passed around a copy of, I call it an ITH in the hopper. This is a bill request that is set to come for the 117th Congress. If you look on the second page, the short title is the Resilient Federal Forests Act. It's basically codifying several things, mainly management protocol will lead to a better result following fire events. Trying managing forests ahead of fires, not after fires. This has been signed on by a number of Western congressmen. Wyden is another one that was involved with this. I believe the bill was Westerman that actually introduced this bill, but there's also a segment of the bill that is deals with secure rural schools funding, which we received some of, and I believe that it will codify some of the types of projects that secure rural schools will actually qualify for. This is a preliminary copy of the bill. I'm passing it out to you right now to take a look at it. Get back to me if you've got some suggestions or questions. This through Western State Region right now, we're actually tracking this one, and this one has some pretty significant importance with relative to Western forests. And it's not just the kind of forests that are on fire right now in Northern California. It's the Santa Rosa district as well. It's the rangeland management as well as it is the timber forest. So anyway, I passed this one out. I passed a copy of them to the administrator's office. So the final draft of this bill, when it comes out, I'll get it in front of you. So see if you agree with it and see if we can get a letter of support out of this board if it suits us. The other thing was a SLU pack.
Can I ask you a question on this?
Yeah.
I see there's a number of categorical exclusions, like, and they're pretty broad, like,
Yep.
to exclusion for wildfire for prevention and drought mitigation. Now, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean logging, it could mean increased
Grazing.
livestock grazing or something. to
Could mean
reduce
bulldozers.
those. And they would do that under a categorical exclusion?
Yep. Yeah, the idea behind it was not to tie the hands of Interior when you're at a position where we're at right now. There's a lot of national forests that are in the west right now that would like to see green stripping occur that may not involve livestock grazing this year. It might involve use of a drill and a plow, a disc. As you know, without a categorical exclusion, it's almost impossible for them to do any of this in a timely manner. So this is trying to get that on the table so that once we have a declaration of a drought and a declaration of an emergency pending, that we can actually take some action if we need to.
Okay. Could that be done on the local level?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Through the racks. That's exactly how it's going to be done.
It's needed. Okay. You had something else?
Yeah, I just had one other thing. I had a SLU pack meeting on the 9th. And the only thing for all that meeting is one thing I thought we would have an interest in for this board had to do with the presentation from Bureau of Land Management's State Office for Planning Director. Their request for they have been requested through Department of Interior, and he led us to believe that all the western states had received the same request, that they will do a top to bottom RMP revision in all the districts in Nevada in 2 years. As you're well aware of, RMPs are something that, they take 8-10 years to complete. There are 2 RMPs I'm aware of right now that have been in the hopper and been worked on now and are sitting on the desk of State Director for signatures right now. They're going to have to be completely opened up and started before they ever sign it into law. The question was asked, why would they do that? Why would you rush to complete RMP revisions? And the short answer to that is if you have specific resource management ideas and guidelines that you want tied up for the next 30 years in regulation, that's the way to do it. So the reason I bring this forward to you right now and get you thinking about it is that there's no possible way they can do a good job on this in 2 years. They can't even meet with us, and they're supposed to coordinate on every step of this. This is exactly what happened to us under the sage grouse RMP revision, and we ended up in court because they wouldn't talk to us. This is getting ready to happen again, and I think we will probably within the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be front and center. This is going to be a big deal because it's going to take a whack at absolutely every resource issue that we have in our county. So anyhow, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's a heavy lift, and I hope that you'll keep on top of that because the county definitely needs, there will be a lot of issues in that RMP that'll affect the county.
I would tell you right now, I'm not going anywhere even after I term out, and I'll be happy to help you guys.
You got a job already, so.
Yeah, I'll be happy to help.
Very, very good. I know I'd be glad to have you help us, whether you're a commissioner or done. Okay, Commissioner Haas?
This is Commissioner Haas. I attended the airport board meeting July 12th. Mostly business as usual, on track to do projects later this year. July 13th, I attended the museum board. Actually, it's North Central Nevada Historical Society Humboldt Museum. And they're still working on finishing the paintings on the museum's wooden buildings. Hope to get that completed before long. And there's also a need to reglaze the windows in the Richardson House and the church. The elevator maintenance contract has a big question, a big question mark behind it. The contract was executed 21 years ago. Maintenance costs have grown annually. from originally $3,000 to $7,100 a year now. So we're going to try and get some help from the DA's office as far as looking at contracts and what we may be able to do there. Planning in October, there's a haunted tour, and there will be 2 kiosks that they put together. One is a Bass kiosk, and the other one is a county point of interest kiosk, and they'll both be unveiled later this year. The Bass will be September 18th, and the public or the county points of interest kiosk will be October 30th. Nevada Gold Mines came in, and a new public outreach representative from the Nevada Gold Mines, Sarah Barber, came to her and introduced herself and visited the museum recently. She explained that the mine is almost done with the donation paperwork for the Winnemucca State Bank and Trust Safe. It's going to be put in the museum. Recent events, June 8th, French Ford Middle School toured the museum. There was 44 children involved in that. June 18th, Kepi Guli performance. June 19th, Show and Shine booth at Vesco Park. June 20th, Jerry and Tessa's wedding at the museum. And August 7th, there will be Community Cubbies kickoff, a fundraiser at the museum. That's all I have to report for now.
Thanks. Sounds like the museum's busy. Commissioner Hill, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Hill, 629. I attended the nuisance litigation meeting we all had. 7-6 commissioner meeting, I was absent. And that's all I have to report. One other thing, I met with the National Horseshoe Pitchers Association director. I actually went and found him and met him. That horseshoe pitching tournament's going on at the fairgrounds right now. A heck of an operation that we have going on there right now. It looks like a really good deal.
Good. Okay. Is that all you have? Commissioner Hill, that was it?
Yeah, that's all I have. I'm sorry. My
Okay.
mute hit me again.
I didn't have, well, I did have a Humboldt Foundation meeting, which I was unable to attend, and so I have nothing to report. So that takes us down to item 7, approval of expenditures for Humboldt County from, oh no, did we do that?
We did do that. I believe we're on number 9, consent agenda.
Item 9. That's consent agenda. Any item appearing on the consent agenda may be pulled down and discussed in detail. This is for possible action. Has everyone seen the consent agenda? And is there any questions or anything you'd like pulled down there? If not, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, as Commissioner French, I would move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, motion's on the floor. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Number 10 is Comptroller. Financial report, Humboldt County Comptroller Gina Rackley will provide an overview of current conditions with respect to Humboldt County revenues and expenditures for fiscal year 2021 and the new fiscal year 2022, including update on the Coronavirus American Rescue Plan Act funds. This is for information only. Good morning, Gina.
Good morning, Commissioners. Comptroller Gina Rackley for the record. Not really a lot new to report as far as FY21 goes. Revenues over are under expenditures right now at $324,000 approximately. We are still expecting about $200,000 in child support reimbursement for 7 months worth of reimbursement. We've reached out to the state and was told that we should have that within a month. So that'll be coming in, and then 2 months worth of CTX, which if that's where it was last month would be about another 1.6 million. So we're on target for our revenues to exceed expenditures for FY21. Continuing to have our weekly ARPA meetings with the committee. That's going well. The city is going to be expecting about $10 million total. So that's a lot more than they were even originally looking at. So the city plans to probably use about 5 million of that towards the aquatic center if they get final approval. They're going through the Nevada League of Cities to the Treasury to make for sure that that's an allowable use of the funds first. And then, so that'll help with the aquatic center. They want to then spend some of that on the downtown Bridge Street beautification project that was started and then really put on the slowdown with COVID outbreak. So they'll be able to pick that up again under the tourism aspect. And last week I sent out the most recent guidance to all of you for your reading enjoyment. But, and Andre's here today too. We continue to work with our auditors and kind of look at some different ideas because loss of revenue is one of the allowable uses of the funds, and there's a very complex calculator that we can use because if you would project what we would have grown, and it's going to be pretty hard, I think, to still sell that for a loss of revenue. I think it would be better to try to find a project that we would want to use that fund on instead. So that's all I have as far as a financial update.
When do we have to have that plan submitted? Is it the end of August?
Yes, sir.
End of August. Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Will we be ready?
You know, everything so far, because at least once a week we'll sit in on one webinar or training session. GFOA's done a few, NACO's done a few. Everybody says at this point they know. Nobody's going to know for sure how we're going to spend this money by December 2024, but they would like to have a plan. So we just really need to have an idea on where we want to spend that money. And they're not going to hold our feet to the fire because what if we have another, massive outbreak, as we heard from Dr. Stringham today. So we have received a couple of requests from different departments for some funding, but nothing. Well, the one big one is the nurse at the detention center. As I said in the email, they're asking for almost $800,000 of the $3 million that we'll be receiving. So that's a big chunk.
What was the county share? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Just over 3 million, right at 3.1. And we've received the first half. And we'll receive the second half next May.
Okay. Any questions for Gina?
No.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
So I guess the next one is your comptroller resolution for capital improvement policy, 5-year capital improvement plan and debt management plan. This is for consideration, discussion, and possible approval. Number 1A is resolution adoption of a 2021 plan, capital improvement plan.
Right. So again, Gina Rackley, Comptroller for purposes of the record. The 5-year capital improvement plan. So what I do is I take the 21-22 fiscal year budget, anything over $5,000 that was placed into a capital outlay account, that are those dollar amounts that are in each one of those columns. And then going forward, kind of project where, like vehicles, we know where we will most likely be on the leases, communication equipment. Buildings and grounds projects, we never know from year to year, so I just kind of take an average and put the 150,000 in that. And then I work with Don Kalkowski in the Road Public Works Fund, and we talk about where he thinks there might be some capital projects up there as well. And so those amounts are in there for RTC and also the road fund. And then we have the events complex, again, put in, and 911 enhancement fund. We just put in kind of what we estimate where these have been. So it's just kind of to let the state know where we're at on these capital projects and where we're spending that money on capital projects.
So like on Dawn's stuff where we might use RTC funds, would that go into capital project? Would we report that under capital projects too?
Yes. So on page 2 is the RTC fund. And it's road fund is at the top and then RTC funds at the bottom on page 2.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Those are separated.
I see now. Okay.
I don't know if you wanted to take those separately. So that's the capital improvement plan.
Probably, huh?
Okay, and then we'll move on to debt management.
Is there any other discussion or questions for Gina on capital improvement plan?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner French, I'd move to approve the capital improvement plan as presented.
That's a resolution.
A resolution is presented, excuse me.
Okay, motion's on the floor to approve. All those, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to resolution adoption of the 2021 debt management policy. Go ahead.
Okay, so again, Gina Rackley, Comptroller, purposes of the record. This debt management policy, we update this annually, and most interestingly enough that we like to point to is on page 3, which goes to show what the debt limit is within our county. So it is 10% of the total assessed valuation of the county, which using the red book, that amount for the county would be $142,187,728. We here at the county have $511,779 in indebtedness. That is for vehicle lease payments to Enterprise Fleet Management. And then on page 4, we compare ourselves, Humboldt, to also some of our neighboring sister counties, Lander, Elko, Churchill, Douglas, and Lyon. And just kind of as an informational purpose, whatever the population was as of 7/1/20, because we'll use the red book for that as well. And the assessed valuation, we go to show per person, per capita, what the debt amount is. So for us here in Humboldt County, that $511,000 in debt would be $28.93 per person. Lander County does not have any debt. Elko County has about $131,000 in debt. Churchill, $14,421,000. Douglas, $23,954,000, and Lyon, $9,668. So we're still at the lower end of the debt, and we're happy to have that way.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Questions? Is there a motion to adopt?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner French, I would move that we adopt the debt management policy for 2021 as presented.
Okay, motion's on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Comptroller, so we can move on now to item 12. Comptroller request to approve audit engagement letter with Drake Rose Associates. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an audit engagement letter with Drake Rose and Associates for the fiscal year 2021 versus 4. Discussion and possible action.
Thank you. Andre Rose from Drake Rose and Associates is in the audience today. If I could ask her to come forward in case you have any questions for her. This is an annual procedure. You remember a few months ago, we approved the action that Drake Rose and Associates would be performing the audit for us. And this is an engagement letter that must be signed by the chairman each year. So I'll turn it over to Andre to answer any questions that you have.
The engagement letter goes through the different procedures and the different requirements of the commission, as well as what our requirements are, which I think we've worked together long enough that we probably have a pretty good understanding of what that is. And then it additionally, goes through what the fee structure is and the requirements of that as well. I don't see anything out of the ordinary this year that's coming. Next year, we'll have some different GASB statements that we'll have to implement, and we'll probably be working on that throughout the year so that we have that in place by the end of this year, this current fiscal year. But at this time, I don't see anything that's going to be out of the ordinary. Single audit's going to be a little different because we have the CARES Act money, but we've stayed abreast of that as we've gone through the year. So I don't see any surprises there either.
Okay. Well, they've been doing the audit since I've been a commissioner, which is 6, 7 years now. Always very thorough. Always available to answer questions. I have been very pleased with the work they've done. It's my input.
My input as well. I been a joy to work with, and they've, as you pointed out, not just culminating in an audit at the end of the year, you've always been present and has always provided the input we needed, on a day-to-day basis, even at times, trying to keep us out of trouble. And I sure appreciate your involvement. I just can't imagine this going forward without them. So.
Well, I don't know. This is Commissioner Haas. I'm very glad you're on board. Looking forward to you doing the audit. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to make a motion.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the audit engagement letter with Drake Rose and Associates for fiscal year ending 2021 as presented.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, is it 10 o'clock? Yeah, we can go on to. This is our public hearing portion, 10 a.m. Set to public hearing zone change applications for RH-21-00 and RH-21-11 veterans, Vietnam Veterans Resolution and Lease Agreement. A is consideration, discussion, and possible action to set RH-21-08 to public hearing with the date to be determined by the county clerk. RH-21-08 is a zone change request by Austin Gunn and Caitlin Rose to change the RH Highway Commercial Zoning designation to RR-1.25 Rural Ranchettes, 1.25 acre minimum lot size. Public subject property is located at 4745 Palm Drive, assessor's parcel number 13-0053-26. Should we take these one at a time?
I think we should.
Yeah.
These are set too, right?
These are set too.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would move, as Commissioner French again, I would move that we set to public hearing for possible action at RH-21-08 and RH-21-08 as submitted by Austin Gunn, Caitlin Rose, and to change the CH Highway Commercial Zoning designation to RR 1.25 Rural Ranchette, 1.25 acre minimum lot size. Subject property is located at 4745 Pond Drive, assessor's parcel 13-0053-26.
Okay. This is just a set two, and just at the date to be determined by the county clerk. Motion's on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Passes. Jesse?
Aye.
I almost cut you off there, Jesse. Sorry.
Yeah, aye. I was an aye.
Okay. Okay, so then we move on to B, consideration, discussion, possible action to set RH-21-11 to public hearing with the date to be determined by the county clerk. RH-21-11 is a zone change request submitted by Daniel Rowland to change the NC-R Neighborhood Commercial Rural District zoning designation to M3 Open Land Use zoning designation. Subject property is located at 3050 Dutch Flat Road, assessor's parcel number 06-0342-18. Here again, this is a set two. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, as Commissioner French, I would move that we set to public hearing action for RH 21-11 to public hearing with a date to be determined by the county clerk. Zone change was requested by Daniel Rowland to change the NCR Neighborhood Commercial Rural District zoning designation to M3 open land use zoning designation. Subject property is located at 3050 Dutch Flat Road, assessors parcel 06-0342-18.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Brings us to item C, consideration, discussion, and possible action to set to public hearing a resolution and amended lease agreement with the Vietnam Veterans Local 477 to occupy the county building at 3300 Bengochea Circle in Winnemucca, Nevada. The agreement is for 3 years with an option for 2 additional years at a cost of $10 annually. So this is a resolution and an amended agreement. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Any discussion on this? Questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner French. I would move that we set to public hearing a resolution and amended lease agreement with the Vietnam Veterans Local 477 to occupy the county building at 3300 Bengochea Circle in Winnemucca, Nevada. This agreement is for 3 years with an option for 2 additional years at a cost of $10 annually.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Aye.
passes unanimously. Okay, then we are going to table item 14 and 15. And brings us to item 16, Public Works. Approval to purchase new motor grader and semi-truck for general and road project, and then also general road projects. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval to purchase a 2021 John Deere 772 GP motor grader from Pape Machinery in an amount not to exceed $318,136. Public Works Department publicly opened bids for a new motor grader in 2020. Trade-in values were not included because the county's grader did not qualify. 2 vendors responded to the resolution, to the solicitation and the bid. This is for possible discussion and possible action. Don, do we have you on?
Absolutely, Commissioners. Good morning, Don Kalkowski, Humboldt County Public Works. So this is a little different than what we've done in the past. Being we advertised this originally in December of last year. We opened the bids in December, and this was originally awarded in January, I believe it was January 4th of 2021. With that, however, and the timing of it, we're able to utilize the pricing from these bids to purchase another motor grader. I've discussed with Pape Machinery. They are good with the pricing. However, they have mentioned that they have already had a pricing increase, but he's still good with the pricing how it is. But they're due for another pricing increase at the end of the month. So he said time is of the essence, essentially. So I've discussed this with Wendy and in the DA's office, and she's okay with this. Because it's within a year of doing this, we don't have to re-advertise, and as long as the vendors are good with it, we can proceed. So this is something that we have in our 2021-22 budget, and I believe we have a $335,000 budgeted for this item. However, with the cost bids and how they came back, it was $318,000. And we do not have a trade-in on this one. I think that would have convoluted the whole process. not bidding it and not having, you know, being able to have all the contractors have a look at the same unit. So.
So what's your plan? Are you going to sell the used grader or old grader, or are you going to keep it?
So with this original bid, we advertised it. We received the motor grader. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was in April, and at that time we did have a trade-in on the original bid documents, and the vendor did acquire that unit from us at that time. This year we're actually kind of short on motor grade, not really short, but we don't have any spares to go anywhere else right now. So being able to hang on to another one for at least another year, or one of our older ones for at least another year, to be able to have flexibility to send at various locations would be a big benefit. And then once we bid this out, you know, if we proceed and you know, the next time we do a motor grader, we'll do a trade-in line item for the one that we're looking at that time.
How did you present this in your budget? Was there, in your budget, did you account for a trade-in or not?
No, we just had I had $335,000 allocated in the budget for this item.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Don on this? Okay, do we have a motion?
This is for item A.
Item A, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner French. I would move to approve the purchase of the 2021 John Deere 772 GP motor grader from Pape Machinery in amount not to exceed $318,136.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Passes unanimously, so brings us to item B, consideration, discussion, possible approval to authorize the Public Works Department to solicit quotes and purchase a used semi-truck in the amount not to exceed $100,000. The department has budgeted $125,000 to purchase an additional semi-tractor truck to provide road maintenance. Discussion, possible action. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, good morning again, Don Kalkowski, Humboldt County Public Works. So this one too is a little bit different. And again, I discussed this with Wendy Maddox of the DA's office, and she understands and she agrees this is a little bit odd. But so the situation we're in with this, we have $125,000 budgeted on our current budget, or our current budget. However, we're looking at some used units. We're trying to get away from some of the emission stuff that's been driving us crazy in the shop. Our trucks kind of take a beating, and not necessarily from our operators. It's just the roads that we deal with on a daily basis for these trucks. A lot of these trucks are over the highway trucks, and they're designed to see pavement all day long. Well, as you guys are aware, we don't have a lot of pavement on our roads that we're working on. So they do take quite a beating, and these emission systems have been dealing us quite a blow with our budget in the shop and timeframes and getting some of this stuff repaired. So we're actually looking at some used units that are non-emissions, in good shape, and looking at purchasing something along those lines. So with NRS 332-063, we can solicit quotes on anything under $100,000. So that's why I'm looking for anything under or approval to solicit or purchase under $100,000. A lot of times on these used units, they get snatched up pretty quickly, and I really want the ability to, if we find something, we send the mechanic down there to look at it. He says, yes, it's a good deal. We can roll with it and not have to wait the month or two before we can get it on the agenda or get it bid and whatnot. And we would still be providing our quotes to justify the purchase as we normally do. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. This was a tough one for me to try and not wrap my head around, but make it so you guys could wrap your heads around it.
So Don, in this case here, we're purchasing an additional truck for the fleet. We're not replacing the truck.
Correct. And at some point, either we will look at maybe auctioning a unit off. We've got at least one unit that has been giving us fits and we've been putting quite a bit of money into. We may hang on to that and just utilize that one as a spare for when other units break down. It just kind of depends when and if we have an auction. If we haven't utilized it to the extent that we need to, we may I may come to you guys to dispose of it at auction.
Do you have any spares now, or?
Right now, if we're full with operators, no, I do not have a spare.
Okay. Any other questions for Don?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
This is Commissioner Hill. I have a question, Don.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Don, is this additional semi because now we've approved an additional grader to your fleet?
Very good question, Mr. Hill. No, this is just one of those things. We've got our equipment is aging up here, and it's really costing us quite a bit. I think the unit we're looking at putting on the back burner as a spare right now, over the last 5 years, has cost us over $50,000 just to keep it running, which is pretty healthy amount just in 5 years just to keep these things going. So we're looking at something that will not take the time, with the costs involved. There's a lot of time with the mechanics, and so we're just looking at something that we can free up the mechanics to do other stuff and maintain other stuff and be able to, proceed with our business.
Okay, yeah, that'd be my only concern, is that we're adding equipment and not retiring anything. And if it's the case that we need to add equipment, then, and it's justified, I'm good with that too. I just wanted to question that.
No. So yeah, we're looking at some point we will be getting rid of a vehicle. It's just whether it's a trade-in or not. We can't necessarily do a trade-in, although that might be something we could possibly look at. If we find a vendor that has a used vehicle, we might be able to hit them up for that. But then that would be me coming to you to authorize disposal of that unit for that. So it just kind of timing wise, it just kind of hurts us if we're trying to act on something on a used basis in a quick manner.
No, I completely understand that, where you're at with what you're trying to do, and I approve.
All right. With that, do we have a motion, or did we get a motion on this? I don't believe we did. Do we have a motion?
This is Commissioner Hill.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we approve the Public Works Department to solicit quotes to purchase a used semi in the amount not to exceed $100,000. This has been budgeted at 125. Is that good enough?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, C is presentation by Humboldt County Public Works Director Don Kalkowski to update the board on road projects within Humboldt County. However, no action may be taken on a matter raised until the matter itself has been specifically included on the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Turning it back over to you, Don.
Absolutely. Good morning again, Commissioners. Don Kalkowski, Humboldt County Public Works. Let's see, I think we talked a little bit last time about the cattle guard at the sand dunes. We have been able to get out there and get that cleaned out. So that has been addressed. Our crews are continuing mowing in the Grass Valley area right now. I think Monday and Tuesday this week they're off, doing some other things, but they will get back to that. We've been working on back slopes throughout the county, all over the place, watering roads when we can, when we have personnel available. This dry weather is kind of murder on the mag, so we've been trying to water the mag just to try and rejuvenate it and keep it with us as long as possible. On side note, Jungle Road is holding up very well, so we're very pleased with our application that we had this year out there, and we haven't touched it in over a month, so that's turning out very well. Grading wise, we've been working on River Ranch and Riverside out in Orovada and Dutch Flats here just north of town, as well as Sand Pass, Bottle Creek, and Paradise area roads like Grayson, 101 Ranch, and Pole Line. We did have, what was it, about the middle of June, we had, I was in Texas at the time, but evidently we had a gully washer and had some culverts plugged and fill up the ditches, or not the culverts, but the wash, the precipitation, fill up the ditches along Water Canyon. And we've gotten up there and addressed that situation and got everything cleaned out up there. And I can't think of anything else. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
No, I was in Kings River last week, and the difference between the mag chloride roads and just the plain gravel roads is quite striking. They're holding up well, and you can go down them at 45 miles an hour, no problem, and the other roads just beat you to death, dustier than heck. So mag chloride in certain places certainly is worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bladen roads right now, if they're not a magged road, which we haven't touched any magged roads that we've done this year yet, just being able to get enough water in them to blade them has been a challenge, to say the least. And the progress we're making is less than ideal, but we are making progress as we move down the road. So
yeah.
This is Commissioner Hill. I have a question, Don.
Yes.
Do you have any update on Greeley Crossing Road? Have we done anything out there?
We have, geez, it's been a while, huh? I think I forgot about that. So we finished great. I'd have to look that up, and I can maybe send you an email or something on that. But we have finished up grading on that. There's a few spots in there that were maybe hit during a rainstorm by trucks or something. There might be some rutting involved, but that has been graded, I would say, in the last 2 months. The grading has been completed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. French.
Yeah, Don, this is Jim French. I was wondering where Davis Lane sits with the repairs that we talked about earlier. I have had another inquiry about that.
It's Commissioner French. It's still on my list. I've got some paving that we're doing, paving patches that we need to get addressed this summer between or up in Orovada, McDermott, and then here in town. That is first priority on my list to get that done. However, I'm kind of at the beck and call of Honeywell for that when they're making plant mix. But the Davis Lane is on my list. It's just a matter of when I have time, personnel available to get that done.
So is it your thought then, Don, it's something we'll be able to get to this field season?
Yes, I absolutely want to get that done before winter.
Okay, thanks. I'll pass that on.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Not seeing any, Don, so got one more item here for you.
Oh,
Agenda item 16 is a request from Rawhide Estates.
so that was inadvertently put on there. That was something that I had requested that they pull that off because the developer is not ready for this unit or for that item. So that can, in my mind, can be tabled.
Okay.
Or suspended, whatever.
All right. So we'll take that and table that item. Looks like we're done with you. Thanks, Don.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thanks, Don.
Can we take a short recess and we'll be right back. With you, Andy. Call this meeting back to order. We are on
Number 17.
number 17, which is assessor. Approval to proceed with digitalizing all the assessor's records, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of requests for the assessor's office to enter into an agreement with Offsite to digitize all the assessor's parcel records and personal property historical records in an amount not to exceed $30,000. And authority of Assessor Heiser to execute the documents, subject to review by the District Attorney's Office. Digitalizing these documents will assist the Assessor's Office in being more efficient and help serve the public in a timely manner. The digitalizing project was approved in the budget for $30,000 from the Assessor's Technology Fund. The assessor has received proposals and recommendations Offsite as it was the lowest bidder. This is for discussion and possible action. Good morning, Andy.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. How are you, commissioners? The new staff report makes it kind of easy for me to explain without writing a 3-page letter. So we're looking to digitize all our historical documents. Some of them have statutory retaining dates of 7 years. Some of them have lifetime. Some of them don't have any at all, but it's just old history that from time to time we do go back and look on when the house was actually built, how they originally constructed it, or how this office sketched it. It will save us time. For right now, we have to put somebody on hold, go pull the physical file, make sure it gets back in place. We've lost files from time to time. So this is the new method we started 2 years ago, scanning all of our documents in. So we already have a base built, and I just would like now all our records to be in one location. I was looking at some numbers. Roughly in a year, we print 2,000 pages for new construction. And depending on the parcels for every year for revalue, we print 4 pages. So we're looking at thousands of pages that we print and store in these folders that we will no longer be doing. So it's going to be a cost saving as well as a benefit to the county, or to my office at least.
Mr. Chairman, sure. Ask one question if I could. Andy, one of the things that crossed my mind was the ransomware issue, with hacking into a lot of those documents that are in, you're well aware of that stuff going on too. And how, once we digitize this stuff and we put it in one location, how do we secure that? Is that something you're comfortable with, or?
I've asked the technology department because that is a concern of mine, and they say that all these documents should be, are you saying secure as far as data loss or secure as far as hacking and viewing these?
Well, actually both,
folders?
Because they could do both. If it's in one location, then somebody could access it.
Yep.
Tie it up, and then, issue ransomware or ask for a ransom for it. But
So the backup part I've asked and have been told that should have a good secure backup on it, because if we do this, the documents will all be destroyed. There's no sense in storing them. So that is a concern as far as being breached or hacked into. It's all public documents. You could come down and say, I want to see the public folder on this parcel, and we pull it out and we show the anybody who requests it. We do have a few confidential parcels that we have no data on in our office. We don't have any documentation. They're restricted in our system as far as being classified. So other than that, all of this is public information.
so then the IT department is going to have it in multiple locations in order to protect it?
That's
Backup?
That's what I'm assuming is going to happen. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Commissioners, this is Tim Hennigan from Technology Services Department.
Tim, is this that?
Yeah.
That here? Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it is the NRS requirement that, for one, that the data is stored in 2 locations, especially when you're doing pure electronic records. So we not only look to meet the NRS standards for how we store electronic data, but it is our intention to have multiple locations and redundant sources that wouldn't be accessible by ransomware attacks. So if we had a ransomware attack on our first level of data, that we restore from a different source. So it's something we're actively working on and making sure that we're protecting that data.
Okay, great. Thank you. Question I had, so this 30,000, is this a one-time cost? Will it be an annual cost to keep it updated? What?
So that's the benefit of going, I never did this, Andy Heiser, for the record, I apologize. That is why I chose offsite. They are going to send me an external hard drive of all the data that I'm going to keep. So that's actually an additional backup that I'll have. The other company that I received a quote from, there was a monthly and then a yearly fee that we would access the documents from their server, and that is not what I wanted. This is a one-time fee to complete this. It should take 2 to 3 months. They hold the documents as long as I need for a charge until I can secure or make sure that verify that all the documents that we receive look clean, there's no issues with any of it, and then they'll proceed to destroy those documents. So it's a one-time, never again charge.
Commissioners, are there any other questions? Jesse, do we still have you?
Yes, I'm still on here. I don't have any questions.
Questions?
Yep.
No other questions, so.
This is just for purpose of the record, before you make your motion, after this was placed on the agenda, we did communicate, and there's not any additional documents that our office needs to review as far as a contract or anything, so we're good on that avenue.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner French. I would move that we approve the request from the assessor's office to enter into an agreement with Offsite to digitize all of the assessor's parcel and assessor's Heisers to execute the documents. All the records, personal property, historical records in an amount not to exceed $30,000, and the authority of digitizing or of assessor Heiser to execute the documents.
Good enough?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Request to purchase a new F-150 fleet vehicle and to auction the 2009 Chevy 1500 pickup. This is for consideration, discussion, and possible approval.
Wendy Maddox, for purpose of the record, these should be two separate motions. One would be for purchase of the vehicle, if that's what you would like to do. The other one would be if it's going to be, if you're agreeable for auction, then per NRS 332.185, I would need your motion to reflect that that vehicle is no longer required for public use. Auctioning is desirable and in the best interest of the county.
Okay. So we will do that. Number A actually says purchase a new F-150 vehicle from Humboldt Ford to replace a vehicle that is restricted from highway driving in an amount not to exceed $33,375. The purchase would replace a 2009 Chevy 150. So pretty explanatory, explained it pretty well why you're replacing it. You have anything else you want to add?
I do not. Andy Heiser, for the record, I do not.
Any questions, Andy, on that?
Curious, and you may have provided this and I didn't see it, but we got additional bids on vehicles then?
I did in here, Andy Heiser, Humboldt County Assessor, for the record. I did receive several from state purchasing. So I obtained a Chevy and a Ford quote. I then took that quote to Humboldt Ford, the Ford quote, and said, what can you guys do? And they came almost right in with it, enough to rather keep the business here local.
Yeah. I'm glad you're trying to buy those vehicles here locally. That's important for us. So.
Yeah. Yep. Except it's 6 months out until we can get a new vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's kind of par for the course these days.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Andy?
No.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try to do a little better job on this one. As Commissioner French, I would move that we authorize the purchase of a new F-150 vehicle from Humboldt Ford to replace a vehicle that is restricted from highway driving in an amount not to exceed $33,375.
Motion on the floor for the discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. So that would bring us to the next part of this, which is to dispose of, where's the item? No.
This is the auction.
Yeah, to auction off the old vehicle. Is there any questions for Andy on that? Vehicle's no longer usable, safety wise for the assessor's office. So is there a motion? We have a motion to.
I need to ask
dispose of
Wendy
it.
one more time.
Sure.
It needs to be indicated it's
No longer
no longer
required
serviceable.
for public use. Auctioning is desirable and in the best interest of the county. Oh,
Is it on the staff? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner, let me share the motion on the staff report.
Yeah, I was just looking at it.
Okay.
Commissioner French, I would move that we authorize the assessor or to auction the Chevy 1500 vehicle being replaced by the previous vehicle, and that it is in the best interest of the county and that the property no longer serves a public purpose, and to authorize the disposal of that property in accordance with NRS Chapter 332.
Okay. Is
Is that
everyone
okay? Okay, guess so.
perfect.
okay? Is there any further discussion? Motion's on the floor. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Andy.
Have a good day, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Next, we have item 19. It's just a sheriff waiver of attrition policy, acceptance of emergency response commission's award, and the United We Stand grant approval of agreement with Premitium. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding a waiver of the county attrition policy to hire for the central control operator position. Central control operator Hatch resigned from his position on July 16th, 2021. The Sheriff's Office Central Control works jointly with Dispatch Center to provide necessary support services, discussion, and possible action. Sheriff, Captain Wilkin, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Humboldt County Sheriff Mike Allen for the record, Commissioners. As you indicated, we are asking for the attrition waiver to be waived to hire a new person for our Central Control Division. This is being vacated by Dustin Hatch, who actually has been with us for several years now. He started as a deputy, and then he requested a transfer to Central Control, and we wish him the best of luck. He was a very consistent employee that we've had over the years, and he decided to sign on with one of the mines. So he will be greatly missed, but we are requesting the attrition waiver to start the process on hiring a person for his position. This position has been budgeted in the budget, and we would like to move forward with the recruitment and hiring process.
Okay. Questions?
Yep.
I know it's a critical position.
Yeah, it's a public safety position. And if there's any questions, I'm willing to make a motion. This is Commissioner French. I would move that we grant a waiver of the attrition policy to hire the central control operator position that has been vacant since July 16th, 2021.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Jesse, did you say aye?
Yep, aye.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Takes us to item B, consideration, discussion, and possible action to accept the 2022 State of Emergency Response Commission, CERC, OP-E, and 2022 United We Stand grants. The CERC OP-E Operations Planning Training Equipment Grant will provide up to $28,142 in funds to purchase 10 portable radios with charging stations specifically for operations during hazmat incidents and LEPC operating costs. United We Stand grant will provide up to $19,996 in funds to procure an unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV drone, and equipment. The equipment will provide critical information to respond to terrorist threats, emergency situations, or investigations. No matching funds will be required by the county. This is for discussion and possible action.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, Humboldt County Sheriff Mike Allen for the record, and is what this is two LEPC grants. The first one, which both grants were successful, and we just need to accept them by the county so we can move forward with the projects. The first one is the CERC OP-E Operations Planning Training Equipment. The LEPC committee met and agreed that the radios would be beneficial for the operations of emergency response and hazmat mitigation issues. And we are requesting to accept the $28,142 to purchase the 10 portable radios.
Mr. Chair?
Sure. Mr. Ross.
I don't have any problem with you accepting the grant. How long are they going to last? It's the radios. How long will they last? Will we have to replace them at a different date, or do we have to upkeep them? And is that looked at in the budget?
No, there's no sustainment costs that were, other than possibly Rick Grantham would need to maintain them, possibly, but they should last us for at least 5 years. But we're operating off of handheld radios in our agency that are 20 years old right now, and we do need to start looking at replacing some of those. But that's at the sheriff's office. These will be specific to LEPC type operations that will benefit, EMS, the fire departments, and, other entities that are within the LEPC committee, the local emergency planning committee, that may need to use those during these hazardous mitigation situations.
I just ask you to look in your future so you're not back here saying, hey, we need some more money to maintain these. And, I'm just bringing that forth, and I know you're aware of that. So
Is what we would do in a situation like that. We would make that request in front of the LEPC committee, and that would be an item that we would budget for for the grant.
Thank you.
I can see where the unmanned drone could really help the department. And you could send it in instead of a body, and not risk a life. That would be really helpful.
Now, one thing too, if you're not aware of this, the OP-E, the CERC OP-E, is more specific to hazardous materials type response, where the United We Stand has to have a terrorism type nexus in it, and that's what the grant guidance indicates. So that's, we can also use it on the law enforcement side of the house, where the OP-E grant is more a combined effort with hazardous material response, if that makes a little bit of sense there. So
if you had someone barricaded behind a car or something, could you use the drone to go?
definitely. Yeah, it'll have multiple purposes. Like if there is a chemical spill, we could send that in to take a look at it instead of endangering our deputies, officers, the response personnel to make an initial assessment of it with the drone. This drone, is a way that a lot of law enforcement agencies, search and rescue groups and fire departments, a lot of them are using these drones to help them with their response capability.
Will you issue it to a certain deputy that you'll be trained to use it, or how?
We'll turn that over to Captain Wilkin.
So Captain Sean Wilkin for the record. Under this, because we're a rural county, we're able to fly under what's called a Part 107 waiver. So we're actually granted quite a bit of latitude from the FAA with this. We do still have to obtain a tail number. We just still have to obtain a nighttime COA for that, and then a specific COA if we intend to fly within a certain distance from the airport. We are going to have training. So this cost, it actually is for 2 drones, and we're purchasing 2 specifically because it allows for simultaneous operations if you need to keep them in the air for an extended period of time. That's why I applied for 2. We will specifically train both deputies and search and rescue members to be able to fly it. We do have a couple of people that are drone pilots in the community that are willing to help us out, that are very well versed in this, and we're going to go forward from there. The goal of them is like Sheriff Allen said, we can use them for hazmat, search and rescue on the river. That is one of my big ones. These drones have the ability to fly by GPS. I can put them on a GPS track to follow the river because you see once a year somebody jumps in there. So we are going to specifically train people. I want to broaden the use of them as much as we can because they are an excellent tool. It is 2021. We have this technology available to us. They tie back into being able to do site surveys, evidence searches, person searches, recovery searches. They have both a standard camera and a thermal type camera on them. A great example of that if we're searching for somebody at night, and even in the daytime, these cameras register heat signature. So they are a really, really good tool. And this vendor that we're looking at going at, they are a top of the line US vendor, which was important to me. They are GSA approved. So we're buying from an approved government vendor for these.
Okay, good deal. Any other questions?
This Commissioner Hill, I just have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hill.
So I've owned drones for quite a while. These, $10,000 a piece, these must be pretty high tech drones. I guess you did say it did have some heat seeking technology. And what kind of range are we looking at with these?
So the range has more to do with our license, or the waiver that we fly under. So with that, technically, we still need to be able to have a line of sight with the drone. The range on these ones is out into the thousands of meters. I don't know specifically because I didn't spec that for this meeting. We do need to be able to have those drones within what they refer to as line of sight, that we can reasonably see the drone while it's flying. I do know that these are capable of flying well outside of our line of sight as well. And with the extended battery packs and things that we're going with on these, each drone will stay in the air for a little over 50 minutes per drone. So for this size and type of drone that we're getting with the capabilities it has, that was pretty much as good as we could get with this.
Okay. And the other question I have, because I know it's going to come up, is with the sheriff's office having access to these drones, what kind of invasion of privacy type issues are we going to be faced with? And will it require like a court order or something to put them into the air, or is it just pretty much covered under what you guys do?
So
let me answer that to start with. First of all, we always do things legally and ethically. If we have any questions, we do go to the district attorney. There are open fields and open field doctrines. So we don't anticipate any issue being there as to invade anybody's privacy with these drones. They'll be mainly used in an open field type environment, which we are covered by case law to use those.
Okay. The third question I have, so will these drones be Zoom capable?
What was that question? Zoom capable?
Yeah, well, they have a Zoom camera on them.
The camera does have the ability to focus in and out. So it does have a zoom capability. It's not extreme, but the camera does have the ability to focus in on an object.
Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah. Any other questions for? Hearing none, what is the wishes to do? We can.
I think it's a good
There's
idea.
no cost to the county here.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. And with that, as Commissioner French, I would move that we allow the sheriff to accept the 2022 State Emergency Response OPTI and the 2022 United We Stand grants. The OPTI grant will provide up to $28,142 in funding to purchase 10 portable radios with charging stations specifically for operation during hazmat incidents. The ELEPSI, the United We Stand grant will provide $19,996 in funding to procure an unmanned aerial vehicle and the equipment, to support equipment necessary.
We got it covered. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Item C, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a request to enter into agreement with Permitium LLC to modernize the concealed carry weapon program. The agreement will modernize the current system and provide an online application system. It allows for permit status tracking, follow-up notifications, and accurate reporting of approvals, denials, and revocations. The cost to the county will be the purchase of an iPad for $800. Permitium LLC fee is collected during the online payment process, where the convenience fee is passed on to the applicant for discussion and possible action. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you once again, Humboldt County Sheriff Mike Allen. For the record, and is what this is, Permitium LLC is a company that has a software package that will help our CCW process be more efficient and effective to manage. And we have checked with a couple of the agencies. I think Lyon County is one of them that is using this, and this has made their process a little bit more streamlined. We feel that this will benefit everybody. And, you know, we can still do it the old way, to where if somebody does not want to absorb the extra cost that comes with it, which is very minimal. I think it's about $5 per application. But if they do choose this, it will make the system a little bit more effective and efficient to use. And we just really excited about this. They approached us. We took a look at it. They did have a couple of law enforcement agencies in the state currently using this, and like I said, we reached out to them, and they are impressed with this system, and it just makes everything more streamlined. And so we are looking for your approval to enter into an agreement with Permitium, and we can absorb the $800 within our own budget, one of our budgets for the iPad to help facilitate this system.
Questions?
This is Commissioner Haas. How is it different from how we're doing it now? I realize you guys do it longhand, and who's going to be able to access this?
So what we would do is put this system online, and they start the application process there. And it helps us in-house by the tracking and where the process is, the application is in the process. As well as not too long ago, we got a public record request to have certain information, which we had to go into our old system, and I would need Debbie Whitaker here to explain this a little bit more in depth, but we had to go into the system to determine how many applications were approved, how many were denied, how many were revoked, or how many were suspended. This will track that information. There is no cost to the county. It'll make this more streamlined, like I say, to us, and it'll make us more efficient and effective.
I'm just a little concerned about, I realize that this will be a great benefit to you because I've, been in the CCW process for years. So, and I know how with the amount of people that are asking for CCW, it's put a lot of extra work on the sheriff's department. How is it different than, can you access it? Can anybody access it? Can other agencies access it? Is it going digital so that it's all over the US?
It depends on what you mean by access. Because anybody can access it to go in and fill out their application.
Right.
As far as the records, there's I believe there's case law that we found when we were doing that public record request that we have to make sure that this information is confidential as well.
Okay.
So it's as far as, access it to access your application, anybody can do that. As far as retrieving information outside, it is confidential and maintained with the highest security.
Thank you.
That includes other agencies?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all in-house with our systems.
The question was asked to me, and I just kind of get it clarified. So if hypothetically, if we enter into this and we have a data, a baseline of data having to do with CCW holders, for instance, in Humboldt County, and ATF made a request for that data, would that be provided to them?
Under the Public Information Act or a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, I believe we would have to provide that regardless if we had this system or we use our current system.
Because that was quite a, if you recall, that was quite a controversy, and it was a newspaper, I believe, that was requesting that data and asking for, under a FOIA request, asking for those records, which provided names, addresses, and locations where firearms could be found. And so they basically, the idea behind it was if you could access a target-rich environment, so to speak, for burglary. So that was a concern that was out there on the ground. I'm not sure how the outcome of that was.
Well, I do believe Wendy did some research for us on that one FOIA request that we received, and it let you guys know if we receive a FOIA request, if we have any questions, which most of the time we do, we immediately contact the district attorney's office for further review. Wendy did review this, and the initial request was basically denied because they were being too vague on the request itself. And we just gave numbers is what we ended up doing on that, on how many applications over a period of time have been applied for, or CCW applications have been applied, how many were denied, and how many were revoked. No names were in the system or within the request.
That's legitimate.
And I recall, you'll remember better than me, because when you said that, I had to look at Captain Wilk, and I couldn't remember if I did research that. But I think that specific statute only allowed for statistical information to be released.
And that's correct. And that goes back on what you're saying, which from what I understood was specifically, the statute was changed specifically off of either that incident or a similar incident where somebody wanted to get blanket information on firearms in residences.
Other than that, it makes sense. I mean, it just allows you to freeze up a lot of your time and whatnot. I know in processing those permits myself, I know it's time consuming and a big deal for the office, and anything we can do to streamline that.
On that process, on that CCW, we're still getting if you will, I don't know if you want to say stonewalled, but slowed down, bottlenecked is a better word, I guess, at the state level. I still don't think they're working at the office. I think a lot of them are still working at home. And that's where the slowdown comes in with the CCWs, as well as some other record requests that we have going on.
Yeah. It's not just from your standpoint either. It's from where I'm seeing it too, from just trying to deal with DCNR and whatnot. That's a good portion of those people aren't even in the office anymore. And it's
Yeah, getting somebody to answer the phone is something
absolutely
else.
right. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion if there is any additional discussion.
I have a question, Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Hill. Yeah, Sheriff. So is there any other cost to the software side of this besides the tablet to carry this program on?
No, they make their money through the additional administrative fee that they charge, but we will still continue to do it the way we've been doing it. So there's no additional cost to the citizen, but if the citizen elects to pay that fee, it will help us and make this process more streamlined. So that's how they make their money, is through their administrative fee. So there's no additional cost other than the iPad.
And then you kind of touched on this. So if a citizen wants to apply for a CCW and they don't have access to a computer, you will still let them apply in person in the office?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. We're not going to diminish any of the services. We're just trying to make them more efficient. If it doesn't work for people, we can do it the same way we've been doing it.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, do you see this streamlining the process through your office, making it maybe a little faster to get things approved because of the lessened workload, I guess?
You know, it will in the long run on this, but like I said just a minute ago, there is where we're seeing the bottleneck is at the state level.
Correct.
And I think once they get back to work, yes, you'll see that these will go through a little bit quicker. The big slowdown too is when we get it is I think we do have several different individuals who offer these classes, and sometimes they have them on the same weekend, and then all of a sudden, you know, we have 60 people showing up wanting their CCW, and that of course is out of our control, and we do everything we can to process those applications as quick as we can. But on a situation like that, this will definitely make it more efficient.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? What do we want to do?
I'm willing to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move that we approve the request part of the sheriff to enter into an agreement with Permitium LLC to modernize the concealed carry weapon program. This agreement will modernize the current system and provide an online application system, and it allows for permit status tracking, follow-up notifications, and accurate reporting of approvals, denials, and revocations. This motion will also include the support equipment, specifically an iPad in the amount of $800 to administer the system.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 20, which is technology services, request to purchase storage drives, consideration, discussion, and possible approval for request to purchase additional storage drives for the county's SANS storage centers from Dell Computer in the amount not to exceed $37,990. The county's storage centers are 90% and growth did not match original expectations. Changes from the sheriff's office require technology service This is to set up new servers for their system instead of replacing the installation on the older servers. Discussion and possible action. We have someone from Technology Services who would like to give some further details.
Yeah, Commissioners, this is Tim Hennigan from the Technology Services Department. Like the staff report says, it's just it's time we need to just add some more hard drive space to the storage centers. This is something that we budgeted for and expected to happen just a little bit earlier in this fiscal year than I was hoping for, but it shouldn't have any major impact as long as we can move forward with this purchase. There's not much else to add to it.
Any questions, guys, commissioners? So we expect these to last us for a while, huh?
Yeah, there's 10 hard drives in each right now, I think, and this will add 10 more hard drives, so kind of double up our capacity. So that should hold out on these specific storage centers for mostly through the rest of their life cycle. So 3 or 4 years.
Okay. There's no questions. Is there a
Mr. Chairman,
motion?
Mr. Chairman, I just had a comment and a motion if there isn't any further discussion on it, but it's my understanding that these additional storage drives are the offsite location for where a lot of the data will be stored to keep us from the ransomware issues that a lot of counties have been plagued with. And I think it's part of a long-term strategy to protect our data. And it's the times we live in right now. And with it,
sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, these storage centers are a part of that disaster recovery policy. Yes.
With that, I'm willing to make a motion for the approval for a request to purchase additional storage drives for this county's SANS storage centers from Dell Computer in an amount not to exceed $37,990.
Okay. Is there any motions on the floor? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Humboldt County TV District, Nevada Public Broadcasting System Grant, consideration, discussion, possible approval of a request from Humboldt County TV District to accept a subgrant from the Nevada Department of Education's Nevada Public Broadcast System in the amount $21,814.17. The Humboldt County TV District applies these subgrant funds towards reimbursement of employee salaries and benefits. These employees perform service and maintenance of equipment that rebroadcast feeds of the PBS channel. The subgrant funds also reimburse the Humboldt County TV District for a portion of the fees paid for the fiber feed of the PBS channel that is rebroadcasted to area viewers. Discussion, possible action. Is this still you, Tim?
Yeah, I can still speak on it. Just as the documentation says, it's a grant we file for every year. We've been doing for quite a while. Just we use it to pay for some of our annual operating expenses and employee salaries.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Is there?
This Commissioner French, I'd move that we approve the request from the Humboldt County TV District to accept a subgrant from Nevada Department of Education's Nevada Public Broadcasting System in the amount of $21,814.17.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Unanimously. Okay, no.
Thank you again, Commissioners.
22 is Humboldt County Library request to accept library services and Technology Act grant. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of request from the Humboldt County Library to accept a mini grant in the amount of $3,000 from the Library Services and Technology Act through the State Library and Archives. The grant requires a 10% match that will come from the library's program and supplies line item. Discussion and possible action. Do we have somebody from the library? Well, I don't know that we need them that bad. It's pretty explanatory, I guess.
straightforward
It's
one.
just the grant.
Yeah, it's,
And 10% match, which will come out of the library's program supplies line. Commissioners, do you have any concerns with this or any questions about it?
we've done this before.
Have we?
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. With that, this Commissioner French, I move that we approve a request from the Humboldt County Library to accept a mini grant in the amount of $3,000 from the Library Services and Technology Act through the State Library and Archives. This will require a 10% match that will come from the library's program supplies line item budget.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimously. Number 23 is letter to the Governor Sisolak requesting the state not exceed COVID-19 related unemployment benefits. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a letter to the Governor Sisolak, Steve Sisolak, requesting the state not exceed COVID-19 related unemployment benefits beyond the September 4th, 2021 deadline. The commission is asking the state to encourage Nevadans to return to work. Discussion and possible action. Well, I looked at the letter. I thought it was well stated. As you recall, at the last meeting, we talked about businesses here in Humboldt County that are running under capacity because of the inability to hire people that are finding it easier to live on unemployment than to work. So hence, we asked the county manager to put this letter together, which he did, and we have in front of us today. Everyone is, I hope, has read the letter. Is everyone okay with that? Any comments, questions?
Oh, I did, Commissioner Haas, I did read the letter. I think we should, instead of waiting until September, we should do it a lot quicker, but we may not get that done.
I just don't want to see them extended again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve this letter?
And Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner French, I would move that we approve a letter to Governor Steve Sisolak requesting the state not to extend the COVID-19 related unemployment benefits beyond September 4th, as prepared by our county manager.
Okay. We have a letter in front of us, but is anybody, any commissioners or there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it passes unanimously. So that brings us to, I believe, future agenda items. Did we Have anything today other than the nuisance complaint?
In the opioid agreement.
The opioid.
Oh, the opioid.
Should be on August 9th. I'll check with Deputy Attorney General Kruger in regards to what the deadline is on the 9th. And then perhaps we'll reach out to you after I talk to DA McDonald and see if you all would like to, or even have the time to do a special meeting if that's what needs to happen.
Okay, thanks.
There was discussion too, as part of the nuisance, for our office to be maybe more involved in helping coordinate those efforts from our side with building and safety and Levi. So
Yeah, if there's a ability, I know there is, to get buildings and ground more involved, particularly I think the lack of permitting itself is a, you know, it's one of the issues that we're having out there, other than the nuisance itself, the trash and stuff. It appears that there's been some construction going on there that has not been permitted.
absolutely. So we'll get with Karen and Levi, and also Wendy. We'll maybe set up a time to maybe discuss a baseline and moving forward successfully.
And I've talked to her about what the current violations are. I just need to clarify with her if that's something they would move forward on now, knowing that he's not living there. Because back in November, he said, I'm not living there, and they closed the investigation. So, but we'll sit down with them, absolutely, all of us.
Absolutely. We'll discuss it. And I think the broader issue too would be best practices, you know, from the building and safety perspective. Are we doing what we need to initially and following through the way we need to? Maybe reaching out to some of our sister counties to see what is your process.
Well, I think if it doesn't demonstrate anything, it demonstrates what's unique about this is how far the complaint has gone. You know, we're actually now contemplating what we have to do here. And the question in my mind is that what are our authorities, and what are our procedures from this point on, so that we're not standing there holding the bag next time.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we struggle with as far as even getting them to this point in front of the commissioners is that verified complaint that kind of triggers everything from your office. And on this one, we have the sheriff's office, but for a long time, we didn't have the building department that would verify whether or not a nuisance. They would just kind of investigate it, so it didn't trigger it coming before you. And we probably need to have a really good discussion about why that's so important, and about evidence at trial and witnesses and that sort of thing.
I agree. So me and you connect afterwards and see
Sounds
what
good.
works best based on your schedule.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds good.
thank you.
I don't think they'd allow them, he allowed them on the property to do their due diligence either. So we need
Yeah.
to do something about that.
The second time they didn't, but we can't really do anything unless we get to
Based
court.
on your schedule in August, because your meetings are moved to the 2nd and 4th, publication should be able to be obtained on all three of those items that you said today. So all three of those should be able to be on the August 9th meeting.
So Abel, this is Commissioner Haas.
Yes, sir.
It's come to my attention that after agreeing to the new stuff we're going to do for the Vietnam veterans Quonset hut, that there may be some major questions on whether or not that is going to be permitted under the licensings that the contractor has. And to protect Humboldt County, we need to look into that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree with that, and important. So maybe I can get some more information from you afterwards so I can look into it in detail.
I have some, but not a lot.
Thank you. Anything would help.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Abel, where are you as far as we need to get the county manager's evaluation done here soon too?
Yes, I'm going to be sending out just a brief overview of goal setting, and maybe some examples and overarching to help you kind of determine, based on what the county's goals are and strategic goals, well, how do we then formulate that into a goal for the county manager? So I'm hoping by this week, end of this week, I would have something out to you to review and consider.
Well, I'd like you to send it out so that we can, as commissioners, if we have additional questions that you might have missed, we can ask you to include those in that evaluation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, ahead of the meeting.
Yes, I definitely, my goal is to get this ahead of the meeting so that any of those questions could be answered beforehand. And that way you can go in there and successfully give the county manager those goals.
So that is, are we shooting for next month to do that too?
I believe we can have, our next meeting is what, August 9th? Yeah, I believe I can have that information out to you by the end of this week, which gives us time for questions, and we can put that on for the next meeting.
I'd like to get that done like next month if we can.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure I'll be here for the first meeting in September. And I'd like all the commissioners to be present when we do that if possible.
Yes, sir.
Anything else anyone else has? If not, we'll go back public comment. Do we have anybody in the public who would like to provide comment?
I do want to make a public comment as well, but I'll wait
Okay.
until the public's able
If
to.
you're on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. Not hearing none. Wendy, I'll turn it over. You?
Wendy Maddox, Deputy DA. I just want to represent to you that I have had a conversation via email with Karen Johnson in regards to her statement that she made that some of the building violations have fallen through the cracks. And so I've asked her to get me a couple of whichever ones that it's her perception have fallen through the cracks. There's 3 that she's emailed me that have occurred over the last 3 years that I need to do some research on and figure out where they are. So I do intend on following through with those and figuring out what's going on and what we need to do if we do need to prosecute those cases. And I just want you to know kind of the way that it works. So when there's a building code violation, either Karen usually sends me an email and lets me know, I've already sent this letter, this is the investigation, these are their issues. I research whatever the building code violations are, and I send a letter. When it gets to my point, we send a certified letter for purposes of notice, proving notice, so that if we do prosecute later, we can prove that they had notice that we tried to handle things amicably before we filed charges. We've actually gotten to the point where the last couple of ones, we've decided instead of doing certified mailing, we've done personal notice by law enforcement, and that has been very effective at getting, so far, 100% compliance when a sheriff's deputy hands you a letter saying, this is what you're violating. And the sheriff's office will serve that for our office for free. So I'll sit down with her, go through those cases, and we also need to identify a better procedure going forward because the email system between the two of us, they're in compliance, they're not in compliance, doesn't necessarily trigger me filing a criminal complaint because I do civil and I have to communicate with the criminal guys. And obviously this whole process is not the very best and most effective. So I'm going to sit down with DA McDonald and talk about how we can internally handle that so that once we get an investigation, as we do for law enforcement, we get a file in our office that's created, it gets assigned to a prosecutor immediately.
You know, I'm not one for creating new positions, but I kind of understand some places have a compliance officer, some counties do.
Yes, a code enforcement officer, and they are post-certified, which means like you're pulled over by one of our sheriff's deputies and given a ticket. It's similar authority to be able to do that.
And that starts the process because I mean, tickets in our case, when they're issued for citations for traffic violation speeding, that citation has has a court date on it. So the process has already started from when that is issued.
Yeah,
So yeah, we can look into that as well.
that might be what we end up doing.
You know, I hate one case to start something new. I mean, we really don't have a lot of problems with something like we have now. We don't usually have any problems with it. But like you say, your office is pretty busy with, you know, some really important child cases and, well, a lot of criminal type stuff. I guess if we get to that point where we can't get the job done that we need to get done, then we need to look at a better way of doing it.
Commissioner Chair, Mr. Chair, this is something that we've discussed in the past. I've discussed it with Betty, you know, when similar issues have arisen and ultimately getting settled. This is something that possibly we can incorporate with existing positions, you know, as far as a reclassification or I think when we did the interviews for the building inspector a few months ago, the gal that we wanted to hire, that didn't work out, she had experience with enforcement as well. So that would have been maybe something that could have been incorporated as part of that role.
Yeah.
So there's always that option as well.
Right.
Mhm.
You have to wear a vest.
This is Commissioner Hill. I have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Hill.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something that rang to me today was, about permit compliance. If somebody chooses not to comply and just go builds a pole barn or whatever. And, it seems to me after our conversation that we really don't have any way to hold anybody accountable. And that really concerns me. In my private business, we get calls daily for these people that, grab land off the internet and buy up a section of land from New York or somewhere and don't know where it's at. And they call us to clear 640 acres, or build a bunker in the side of a mountain. I think the time's come where we're seeing more and more of this type of stuff. So we really need to get our hands around this.
And Mr. Hill, I think you make excellent point. It also worries me with companies like Lithium Nevada now bringing in 1,000 people that I could just see them throwing up a camp trailer out in the middle of the desert out there in Orvada. And we don't have a whole lot that we could enforcement there. And yeah, it can get out of hand. I think that the potential of it becoming worse is certainly there. So I agree with you.
Yep, that's all I have.
I think this all ties back to the ordinance. So maybe it's a broader approach that we need to take the ordinance and also maybe looking at it from a classification perspective as well.
I like it.
Okay, any other future items anybody can think of? Hearing none, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we weren't on future items, we were on public comment.
I'm right.